It might be the single most important and impactful question every single American needs to ask themselves as we run headlong into the midterms and the election of a new president. Can the public handle an honest candidate for any office? This one we will have to dig into. They used to call Denver the Mile High City only because of its actual elevation. This, of course, has changed with recent marijuana legislation. So what has been the actual impact of a populace able to stoke and toke at will? On a much more serious note, the Middle East. Need we say more? We must, because from an American journalist being held captive to a three-state solution and real questions about what started this latest blow-up between Israel and Hamas. The region's more explosive than ever. Buckle in. We seek to find real, honest answers as we do that by being the only network news program that questions everything. For Tuesday, July 29th, 2014. Speaking of elections and presidents, a poll this week asked a question that at its core was nothing more than a space filler and designed to get a reaction to a conclusion that can never be reached. Why Republicans need to completely ignore any question about Mitt Romney running for president in 2016. That's my commentary later this hour in Telling It Like It Is. Buckle up. John Bachman gets us started with this edition of Newsmax Now.
Thank you. The violence in the Middle East, Ed, is reaching new levels, and now the rhetoric there is reaching new levels as well. Today, Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khomeini is calling on the Islamic world to arm Palestinians fighting what he calls the Zionist regime. Khomeini spoke to hundreds, maybe even thousands of gatherers today at a speech marking the end of Ramadan. In his speech, Khomeini says Israel is acting like a, quote, rabid dog, and says they are committing genocide in Gaza. The Iranian leader, also called the ceasefire talks a ploy by the U.S. and Europe to save Israel. Instead, Khomeini says the Islamic world must rally behind Hamas, provide weapons, and continue to defeat Israel. Meantime, the fighting continues to intensify in Gaza as Israeli defense forces began to concentrate on key Hamas targets. Israeli warplanes leveled the home of a top Hamas leader last night. The IDF also struck the offices of Hamas-run TV and radio stations. In the meantime, tens of thousands of Palestinians have been displaced by the fighting in Gaza. The death toll eclipsed 1,000, and most of those victims on both sides, Israel and Gaza, are civilian. Back here in the U.S., federal contractors are now building the first U.S. nuclear reactor in some 20 years, but construction is proving to be problematic. Issues stemming from the design and quality of prefabricated materials is leading to construction delays and safety concerns. Despite that, utility companies in Georgia and South Carolina are looking to complete the building of these new reactors sometime in 2017. Also, the U.S. has now accused Russia of violating a very important nuclear missile treaty. President Ronald Reagan and Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev agreed to the key arms control treaty back in 1987. That ban prohibited the U.S. and Russia from using ground-launched ballistic or cruise missiles capable of flying up to 3,400 miles. The decision helped put an end to the Cold War and has been regarded as a cornerstone of American-Russian relations since then. Yesterday, President Obama raised these allegations of misconduct in a letter addressed to Russian President Vladimir Putin. Also later today, I think we may have got this, the State Department saying that Russia is doing very little, no shred of evidence coming from the White House that Russia is doing anything to ease the violence in eastern Ukraine. More news ahead in 30 minutes. I'm John Bachman, now back to MidPoint.
On the ground, a convulsing spiral of violence. ISIS militants overrun crucial Iraqi territory, a sectarian war unfolding. Now, some influential voices are reviving an idea floated in the early stages of the Iraq War and at the height of the insurgency when U.S. troops were being killed every day. Stop trying to hold Iraq together.
The United States should not be in the business of trying to put together a country that has broken up.
Former U.S. Ambassador Peter Galbraith, now an advisor to Iraqi Kurdish leaders, advocates dividing Iraq into three sections, split along religious and ethnic lines. A Shia region in the southeast, shown here in blue, a Sunni region in the north and west, shown in orange, and a Kurdish region in the northeast, in yellow. It's close to how Iraq is divided right now. Each region would be self-governing.
What has long been feared in Iraq is already happening. Not one, not two, but three distinct states are forming, and that can only bode ill for the country, the region, even the United States. This while questions are still being raised as to how this current battle between Israel and Hamas actually began. Much more in the Middle East and why every single person listening and watching needs to pay heed. As we welcome into MidPoint, former State Department spokesman and ambassador to Bahrain, Adam Ereli joins us. Ambassador, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Ambassador, let us start out first of all with what is happening right now in the Middle East. A supposed ceasefire was held today. You had the Palestinian Authority, the leadership in the West Bank, calling for a 24-hour truce. Almost immediately, there was a lot of controversy. Was Hamas agreeing? Hamas came in, then said, we do not agree. This is not our ceasefire whatsoever. Is there any reason to believe that the actual leadership of the Palestinians has any control whatsoever of what Hamas actually does?
No, there's no reason to believe they do. I think there's every reason to believe they don't. I mean, the fact of the matter is that Hamas has been a law unto itself for quite some time. And, the Palestinian leadership in the West Bank has accepted Israel's right to exist and has committed itself to a nonviolent resolution of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. With Hamas, it's exactly the opposite. They don't recognize Israel's right to exist, and they believe that the armed struggle is the way to achieve their objectives. So they're out of sync with the Palestinian leadership and, frankly, out of sync with the rest of the world and the modern era.
To those who understand what Hamas is doing, who they are, what they have been doing, is it still something of a mystery? Why, certainly when you hear people at the United Nations and other nations around the world who still seem to be looking at this as an attack on Hamas and the Palestinian people instead of what it really is, it must be frustrating so many times to hear people say, stop going after the Palestinian people when it is Hamas that is actually part and parcel of the murders every single day.
Well, yeah, I mean, although, look, I think it's a function of modern warfare, unfortunately, that civilians are pawns in the game played by warring parties. I mean, look, we've seen it in Lebanon, we've seen it in Syria, we've seen it in Iraq, we see it in Gaza. I mean, Hamas puts their arms storage, they put their rocket factories in schools and hospitals so that if the Israelis are going to strike them, there are going to be civilian casualties, and then Hamas can use that to try to whip up opinion against Israel. On the other hand, I mean, look, Israel, we all understand Israel's right to defend itself, but I guess one could legitimately ask, is there a way to make it less costly to Palestinian civilians who, frankly, are innocent? But I think the broader question is this, and, again, I like to take a wider look at this, and everybody's talking about the conflict between Israel and Hamas, but this is part of a small part of a much bigger conflict, and that is the conflict between, radical political violence by extremist Islamic movements, Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran, and what I call civilized countries like Egypt, like Israel, like Jordan, like, frankly, and I would put them in this category, Saudi Arabia, and the states of the Gulf. And when I say civilized, I mean they play by the same rules that we play by. The other guys don't. And if you just focus on Hamas and you just focus on this conflict, you're missing the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is a concerted effort to destabilize our allies and to spread their version of intolerant, absolutist religious rule. And the center of gravity of that is Tehran.
Okay, then let's take that as a given. I want to stop you and interrupt you for a moment here. Let's take all of what you've said as a given here. Now, you started to get to it and you mentioned Tehran. My question then is, if you're in your experience and what you know, where then is the starting point? If the starting point then is not simply to go after Hamas, because you mentioned others, where do you then focus, whether it's American interests, whether it's the EU getting involved, whether it's anybody actually having a part to stop this? Where do you begin?
Well, I think you begin in Tehran, and I think for many years we had a strong policy of isolating Iran, of doing what we can to weaken the regime. I think that policy has eased off a bit of late, and I think that's a mistake. And I think we're seeing that in the survival of al-Assad, in the breaking up of Iraq, and in the conflict in Gaza. And they're, look, none of this shit, excuse my language, none of this stuff would be happening if there weren't arms and money and soldiers and technical advice coming out of Tehran and going to all these places. Make no mistake.
Now, you're moderating a congressional briefing today entitled Iraq Crisis and U.S. Interests, Iran's Meddling, Maliki's Role, and the Path Ahead. So what's the intent of this briefing? What will come out of it that will be of substance in your hope?
Well, I think part of it is just awareness building. I mean, we're going to the Hill. We're going to be talking about this issue. I think a lot of people don't see the forest through the trees. They just see the trees. But there is how should I put it? There is a thread, a common element that runs through all of this. And that's, I think, what we're going to be discussing and trying to make people aware of.
Is that just it, though? You said make people aware, but is awareness the single biggest thing that has to happen here? Because it seems no matter how many times we talk about this, it does seem as if American interest and certainly the American government is simply clueless many times in how to proceed. And this would, of course, speak to John Kerry, who many say was completely ineffective in any sort of peace process he had in the last week.
Yeah, good point. I mean, awareness is the first step towards a cure. And you also, obviously, once made aware, have to be motivated to take action. And that's why, frankly, we're doing it on the Hill. Because members of Congress and citizens who they represent have a critical role to play in trying to get things on the right track.
When we talk about John Kerry here, I wanted to get your opinion, certainly as someone who's been an ambassador, you know the region. What is your opinion then of what John Kerry has or has not done thus far in Gaza and the Middle East?
I think he's trying hard. But he hasn't, I don't think he has very much to show for his efforts. And that's a problem. Part of it is, I don't know that it's all his fault, frankly. I mean, look, he's got a pretty weak hand to play. People in the Middle East we don't have a lot of leverage with them. Because it's like, what can you do to either help us or hurt us? And the answer, unfortunately, is neither.
Then how do we then get to the point to have somebody in the Middle East, in authority, listen to us and at least attempt to reconcile with us what needs to be done? Seems to me as if we're repairing bridges here that may have been destroyed for decades, and still we may not be trying to actually deal with the right people sometimes.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think it's bridges that have been destroyed for decades. I think it's bridges that have been burned in the last 6 years, unfortunately. And, I mean, most people in the Middle East are just kind of waiting for this administration to move on.
When you say waiting to move on, are we looking at a point right now where many people who are there in a position of authority simply are just not willing to do anything whatsoever, even if it is a patchwork at this point, because they just don't care to deal with this president?
Yeah, exactly.
Is there anything that we can do or that the president can do at this point in the next 2 years to bring somebody to the table, or is that simply just at this point useless?
Well, I think, I would like to see the president stop this dance with Iran over the nuclear program and get tough. Because absent that, I don't see any significant change in either Iranian behavior or the ability of their surrogates to act against U.S. interests in the region.
Then we're going to have to stop it right there. Ambassador Adam Morelli, we thank you so much for joining us. I know that you're on your way right now to a congressional briefing. We'll have to check in and see how things went. Thanks for your time.
All right, thank you.
All right, later in the hour, why Republicans need to stop thinking about a Mitt Romney candidacy in 2016. That and a whole lot more as we continue on MidPoint, where we question everything.
I'm at St. Jude because I had a cancer inside of me. They diagnosed me with a brain tumor. You have to be strong and don't give up. Attitude is everything. You have to fight.
Imagine your doctor tells you your child has cancer with only months to live. Where would you go? What would you do? Who would you turn to? Fortunately, St. Jude Children's Research Hospital is fighting every day to save children's lives. And with a gift of just $19 a month, you can join the fight.
This is my kid that they're giving back to me. I am so grateful.
At St. Jude, no family ever receives a bill. In fact, no family pays St. Jude for anything. That's why your gift of $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, is so important.
When I thought that I might lose my son, they gave me hope.
You are not only saving a child's life, you're breathing life back into that family.
If I hadn't come here, I wouldn't have my son.
St. Jude's life-saving research and treatment is shared freely with hospitals around the world.
St. Jude gives you hope and happiness. They're helping us live. Maybe in the future, kids won't have to go through this. We'll find a cure and it'll all be over.
Please, call and become a St. Jude Partner in Hope right now.
On Newsmax TV, Governor Rick Perry sends troops to the border to make it safe. But why is Obama so angry? Watch J.D. Hayworth today and get the real facts on America's Forum. Watch it on Newsmax TV.
First, Mr. Reed, I see where your client...
Your Honor, I would like a continuance.
This case has already been delayed several times, Mr. Reed.
I realize that, Your Honor, but I would really like a continuance.
I'll have to hear good cause, Counsel. What's the problem?
I can't lie!
Okay, here's our starting point for this discussion. I'm going to say a word, and you then have to be completely honest about the very first word that pops into your mind. Here we go. Politician. Now, to be fair, there are those of you who thought of words that not only would not be good for a family show in any sense of the imagination whatsoever, but are probably the creative collection of consonants and vowels that some people would immediately write down as being perfectly suited for that profession, most of which would likely include parts of the human anatomy. But I'll wager a lot of you thought things like untrustworthy, fraud, charlatan, liar, because let's face it, we in America have been conditioned that this is what politicians inherently are. So then, could the public handle a really honest candidate for 2016? Welcome back to MidPoint. Professor at the Stony Brook School of Journalism and Newsmax contributor John Friedman joins us from New York. Hi, John.
Hi there.
Is it not fair to say, John, let's start right out from the beginning, we as Americans, we don't mind being lied to. As a matter of fact, sometimes we like it because it makes us feel nice, warm, snug, and comfy in our beds at night.
Remember A Few Good Men? You can handle the truth. We can't handle the truth because the truth is just too real in our lives, and people don't want to hear it. They want it filtered, and they don't want it pure.
But shouldn't we want the truth, though? If we're going to put people in a position of authority, people who are going to be making decisions that will change our lives and maybe the lives of the planet in general, why don't we want somebody, really at the core of our being, why don't we want somebody honest there?
Remember Jimmy Carter's slogan in '76, I'll never lie to you? He lasted one term. I don't think the American people really want to hear the truth. They want to believe they're hearing the truth, but they don't want to really know what's actually going on overseas or with the economy or with immigration. They don't want to know because that's just too real. That requires too much thinking. They want to just have it kind of gilded to them.
Why do we want such escapism? Are our lives that bad?
I think we are afraid our lives will get that bad. If we know where the economy is going, or the stock market, or housing prices, or immigration reform, or Obamacare, all these buzzwords we keep hearing about, can you imagine the panic if people really knew what was going on, that things would get worse and not better?
Let's go ahead and look at some numbers here. Let's start this out. Here's a poll. Now, this comes from the New York Times. It says, do you want Democrats or Republicans to control Congress? It's a pretty simple question. So here you have in 2006, leaning toward Democrat, 2010, leaning a little bit towards Republican, 2014, right in the middle. John, we can't make up our minds, John.
Could we ever? I mean, could we ever in this country make up our minds about which direction to go into? It's always a slingshot. You know, if it's over here, we want it over here, and vice versa. The American voter is a funny animal. I mean, we learned this over many, many years. You basically give this person breaking news all the time with the appearance of breaking news, and you'd be far ahead as a politician.
Well, now wait a minute here. Let's stop, because you've just hit those two words that to me are anathema in many ways of what we do in this business. You use the words breaking news. Is it not fair to say that many times the American public, whether it's their politicians, whether it's anything that goes on, has been completely desensitized in many ways to whatever really is important, critical breaking news? Because there are some news networks who use it to basically tell us that the latest celebrity has managed to get a new dress or a new pair of shoes.
I'm wearing old shoes, by the way. I'm in an old suit. I'm wearing old shoes, so don't count me in that discussion.
We promise.
But you're right. Of course, people are burnt out by now on headlines and breaking news and 24-hour news coverage. People are a little tired of all of it. But at the same time, if a politician can feed the voter the appearance of new breaking news all the time, that politician will be ahead of the game, because the media will then think, this person is good for my business. I'm getting breaking news here. And the media will enable this politician by then helping that person become more famous and more popular.
But isn't it also true that many times when we look at elections, we see exactly what a candidate stands for? We know, we can look at it, we can hold it in our hands, we can look at it on the web. But many times it is the personality that wins the election. It has nothing to do with what actually will affect people from day to day. It's whether or not you smile well, look good, and you have a full head of hair. No offense, by the way, on that last one. I should point out. I
know.
That's
a cheap shot. All right, I'll get past that one. My old suit, my cheap shoes, and I'll pass that one too.
Okay.
But the thing is that, you know what you're really boiling down to, it is star power. I mean, you really want to have somebody with star power. Remember the movie Game Changer on HBO? How they said that Obama was a star and McCain was a hero, but Obama was a star in 2008, and the star trumped the American hero, because everyone wants to be around somebody famous, somebody who has celebrity status, somebody who's a star. Even people who are following the challenge want to be that kind of person too.
Okay, so then in your sense, let's look at star power. You would agree, I guess, that Barack Obama either had or has that star power. So take Barack Obama, if you will, and then let's go to somebody like Hillary Clinton. In contrast to what Barack Obama is right now, does Hillary Clinton have that star power?
She has it to a degree, but I'm not sure it's good or bad for her, to tell you the truth, because we know her so well. Obama came out of nowhere in 2008. I mean, really out of nowhere. Ask Hillary about that, by the way. And he became this overnight celebrity, not just a politician, but a rock star. He was a rock star. And of course, over time in the White House, his hair has turned grayer, and he's smiling less often because the job just beats you down, I'm sure. But Hillary Clinton has been with us for such a long time, over 20 years by now. I'm not sure if her star power is a good thing or a bad thing for her at this point.
Is that what might hold somebody like Elizabeth Warren back? It doesn't make a difference whether or not we actually believe her, whether we think she's telling us the truth, but the fact that right now, to many people, she's not a rock star in any sense of the imagination.
She's Gary Cooper. She's James Stewart. She's the underdog, speaking for all of us in our minds. I mean, she has that kind of stoic New England mentality and persona, kind of like Jimmy Stewart might have projected in Miss Goes to Washington, or Gary Cooper in High Noon. I mean, she's out there by herself fighting for all of us.
But is it not fair to say that on the other side of that coin, Chris Christie is a guy who for a long time was a rock star, and in many people's minds still can be that, and has that sort of personality. He may rub people the wrong way, but again, it comes down to fact, truth, trust. but he still has that ability to grab people's attentions just by speaking.
Does he have the trust value? Ed, do you think the trust value is very important? You said trust as one of the words there. After that fiasco last year at the bridge, can we still trust him completely?
But will that not go away by the time we get to 2015 even then? Because you and I both know, being students of the media, that many times it doesn't make a difference whether or not you tell the truth or lie. A lot of times things like this just sort of waffle away and they go away, and the media has that short attention span, and they really will get past it sooner or later.
But playing devil's advocate, it never goes away, because Wikipedia, Google, YouTube, technology, everything you've ever said or done on tape is now forever because of Wikipedia and Google, especially, and YouTube. So I'm not so sure it's going to go away and stay away forever.
All right, let's take another tack here. The Mississippi mudsling, all we saw in Mississippi that went on there, people loved it. It's dirty politics. So would it not be fair to say that, okay, we want the truth? No, wait a minute. We don't want the truth here. What we want is really good theater, and we want really great charges, counter charges, coups, counter coups, whatever it turns into here, because still in America, we're drama. We're drama kings. We're drama queens. We love that stuff no matter who it is. Fair?
Well, it's fair to a degree. We love being surprised. I think Americans love being surprised, especially in politics. When it comes to a debate or a speech, we love when somebody will tell us something we didn't already know in a way we were surprised about. So what happened in Mississippi, I'm sure, was the same kind of thing, where maybe down there it's politics as usual, but up here in the Northeast, where I am, for example, it's a whole different animal.
So about the minute or so that I have left here, I'm going to take you back to 1984. Walter Mondale, his pledge to raise taxes. He said, and I quote, "Let's tell the truth, Mr. Reagan will raise taxes and so will I. He won't tell you, I just did," unquote. He lost in a landslide. Could America and would America actually elect somebody president in 2016 who came right out, looked him right in the eye, and told him exactly the truth?
I think so. I think it could work. I think if people, I said before, but if people will believe that line of logic, they'll go along with the politician if the politician is credible and decisive.
If the politician is credible, which means there has to be something, whether it's a he or she, they have to have something in their background that makes people believe they're credible. Does anybody believe politicians are credible in the first place?
That's the key question. Another time, I guess. That's really the key question here.
There you go. That's why we ask them all the time. We'll have to come back for an answer out of time. John, thanks so much for joining us, my friend. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you. My pleasure.
All right, later on this hour, they're toking away in Colorado. So what has been the immediate impact other than an uptick in sales for potato chips and ring dings? And next up on the card, top stories from the Mothership website. We'll check out what's happening at Newsmax.com, bring you up to speed on what we're covering, what you should be listening and watching, and then what you should be commenting on in social media. We'll do that all right here on MidPoint, where every day, Monday through Friday, we question everything.
Looking for a home loan? Welcome to PennyMac, one of America's leading mortgage lenders, where all we do are home loans. PennyMac offers a neighborhood of home loan options. First-time buyers? Call PennyMac for some low down payment options as low as 3.5%. Looking for an FHA loan, jumbo loan, VA loan, or conventional loan? Call PennyMac. Want to refinance to save money? Yep, call PennyMac. Home underwater? PennyMac offers a government-sponsored HARP program that can help you reduce your interest rate. So if you're thinking home loans, PennyMac leads the pack with low rates week in and week out, so you know you're going to save money and get a fast closing. So call PennyMac now. We're probably helping some of your neighbors with their loans, and we're ready to help you too. Call the experts in home loans in the next 10 minutes to get a free $50 Home Depot gift card. Call 800-424-1956. 800-424-1956. 800-424-1956.
Technology gives you security. Technology gives you control. And now, technology gives you home security and control in a new and revolutionary way. Introducing Plug and Protect from LiveWatch Security, an easy-to-use wireless security system customized just for your home, controlled from any smartphone, tablet, or computer, and monitored by professionals 24/7. Go to livewatch.com to get Plug and Protect interactive security delivered to your door. Arm or disarm your system from anywhere. lock or unlock your doors, turn your lights off or on, even oversee your home with live video. With Plug and Protect, your security system is configured, tested, and then shipped directly to your home. No wires, no installers, just peel and place. Go to livewatch.com because with Plug and Protect, we customize your security to fit your home. The Plug and Protect secret is technology. With technology, you buy airline tickets without a travel agent. You trade stocks without a stockbroker. Now, with Plug and Protect, you can protect your home without an installer, pushy salesman, or a long contract.
Every day, the kids got out of school before I left work. I worried whether they were home okay. But then I found Plug and Protect from LiveWatch. And now I see when they open the front door, so I know they're home safe. LiveWatch helps me stay in touch and in control.
Founded by a paramedic in Kansas, serving tens of thousands of homes in all 50 states, and trusted by policemen and firemen throughout the country, LiveWatch is the new choice for home security. No door-to-door salespeople, no messy installers, no long-term contracts, just Plug and Protect. Now you too can enjoy the home security and control you want for your family. Try Plug and Protect in your home for a full 90 days. Included is our hassle-free guarantee. Go to livewatch.com. Plug and Protect is not available in stores, so go to livewatch.com right now. That's livewatch.com.
Hello, I'm John Bachman. Welcome to this Newsmax Now update. A senior Palestinian official today proposed a 24-hour humanitarian ceasefire, but that was quickly rejected, like several other proposed ceasefires by Hamas. Early this morning, also, shelling from Israeli military forces demolished Gaza's only power plant in the Gaza Strip. Now, this comes as the IDF continues to destroy parts of Hamas's infrastructure. Israel actually supplies much of the power and electricity to Palestinian civilians, but fighting has destroyed many of the power lines into Gaza. Now, over to California, where a decision has been made in the case involving Los Angeles Clippers owner Donald Sterling. A judge ruled yesterday against Sterling, which allows a $2 billion deal to go through. That means Microsoft's former CEO, Steve Ballmer, will purchase the team. The judge sided with Sterling's estranged wife, who you see there. This is the case that began after the 80-year-old billionaire was banned by the NBA for making offensive remarks about minorities. Sterling has vowed to fight the NBA until his death and is expected to continue to wage court battles to stop the sale of his team. John Bachman here. More news ahead in 30 minutes. Now back to Ed in MidPoint.
Thank you, John. Let's find out what's happening on the mothership right now. Newsmax.com. Let's welcome in managing editor Tim Colley. Tim, hope you're well. How's your Tuesday?
Good, going great. How's yours, Ed?
It's another day in paradise, my friend. Then again, I say that to everybody because I just want it to be paradise, no matter what happens. All right, let's talk about paradise on the website right now. Lead story, Leahy bill drastically curbs NSA surveillance. This to Vermont Senator Patrick Leahy introducing legislation to ban the bulk collection of Americans' data. This is a story that, quite frankly, is going to be followed by an awful lot of people who are worried what their government is doing these days.
Yes, it's being pushed by a Democrat, but I think there's a bridge here between Democrats and libertarian Republicans like Rand Paul. So you may see some action on this bill. There's a lot of anger building up in both the House and the Senate about how this has been handled from the get-go and the lack of progress that's been made in curbing bulk collection of our emails, phone numbers, and such.
Is it not fair to say, though, that you have a groundswell of the American public who is really worried where all of this information is going? So it is something that strikes at the very heart, on top of Edward Snowden and so much else that people are talking about.
Yeah, there is definitely a groundswell. On the other hand, from the point of view of the CIA and the NSA, the next time there's a terrorist attack, the first thing is asked, well, why didn't you know, about the Boston Marathon bombers and stuff like that? So there's an agreement of sorts that's got to become here, or a line, and maybe a fine line between collecting everything and collecting what's needed to be collected.
All right, down the line on Newsmax.com under the News Front banner, report, administration likely knew some Obamacare subsidies illegal. Tim, we have talked about this before, and certainly we've talked about it with an awful lot of experts here on MidPoint, the Steve Malzberg Show, America's Forum. They had to know that some of these things were going to be illegal, and they had to know that a lot of it was going to be challenged, which then always leads people to go, then what made you thought you were going to be able to shovel it through in the first place?
Yes, as you recall, last week, the appeals court pushed back on the argument that the federal government can subsidize Obamacare. What's emerged now in the last couple of days is some videotape of one of the key Obamacare architects who appears to be agreeing with this point of view, even though he's denying it now. That is, if the state didn't agree to set up an Obamacare exchange, they certainly couldn't subsidize the insurance. So that's what's going on here. It seems to be some pushback on this, and like I said, some very embarrassing video for this particular architect.
Next story on that, right on the front page, Democrats pushing impeachment talk to stir the base. Interesting, because John Boehner has come out today basically saying there will be no impeachment, and he says it's all a scam started by Democrats at the White House. I tend to think that there's some people, if you look at this very honestly, will be able to say, excuse me, Mr. Speaker, started by the White House?
Yeah, it's in a midterm, it's all about stirring up the base. And right now, the Democrats haven't had a lot to stir up their base. So the theory goes that perhaps this is getting the base excited. This will get people motivated to show up for midterms, which historically, at least in the last few elections, have been dominated by Republicans.
Is it not fair to say, though, that this entire impeachment talk, the people who are involved in covering the news, who know the White House, who know the government, knew that this was not going to go far, and sooner or later it was going to have to stop?
Oh, yeah, I think that's true. I don't think anybody's taking it that seriously yet, and I think that's why people are trying to walk it back a little bit on the right.
The walking will continue all the way from Pennsylvania Avenue right across the Key Bridge and every place else they can go to get out of the Beltway. Tim, it's always a pleasure, my friend. Have a great day. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.
Okay, thanks, Ed. Talk to you
later.
later.
All right. Pleasure. And a couple of other stories here. House to vote on slimmed down bill for border. And a poll, most Americans think illegal border kids should stay. And legal experts, executive order on immigration, tough to challenge. Those stories and a whole lot more are sitting right there on Newsmax.com. We invite you to check it out every day. And, oh yeah, by the way, another one that's here, our own Dick Morris, noting that Jerry Brown may challenge Hillary. Rest assured, we're going to be talking about that one here as the week goes on. Once again, check it out. It's all on Newsmax.com, your source for news. Your source for right now for what happens in America is this American Moment.
Abraham Lincoln began the war between the states with a single stated purpose, to preserve the Union. So it surprised everyone when in July of 1862, President Lincoln announced his intentions to issue an Emancipation Proclamation to free the Southern slaves. Lincoln was urged to delay his proclamation until the Union Army could boast a battlefield victory. That opportunity came at the Battle of Antietam, when Union forces drove Lee's army out of Maryland. 5 days later, on September 22, 1862, President Lincoln issued the preliminary Emancipation Proclamation, stating slaves in those areas still in rebellion within 100 days will be freed. This action made slavery the focus of the war and ultimately caused France and England to withdraw their support of the South. The following January, Lincoln issued the actual Emancipation Proclamation, stating that all persons held as slaves within the rebel states are, and henceforth shall be, free. You're watching An American Moment on Newsmax TV.
When you break down or need help fast, there's AAA and there's Auto Vantage. Let's see who has the advantage. AAA Plus covers you for up to a 100-mile radius. So for a 150-mile tow, it could cost you up to $200 out of pocket. With Auto Vantage, you're covered up to 150 miles at no additional charge. Advantage Auto Vantage. With Auto Vantage Locate Me technology, we'll find you with GPS by leveraging all the largest cellular carriers in America and provide you with professional roadside assistance. With AAA's Find Me service, they can find you with GPS, but only if you're calling with certain carriers. Or you can call, explain the intersection where you broke down, and hope you described your location correctly. Advantage Auto Vantage. Auto Vantage provides lockout assistance of not just your car, but your home as well, which could cost you $50 or more each time. Plus, you'll get access to our certified mechanics hotline for repair advice and to tell you what real service costs should be. So if you're considering renewing or joining AAA, stop and take advantage of our 25 years of quality service in all 50 states. Just call or log on and see our head-to-head comparison against AAA and why it makes sense to switch today, like hundreds of other benefits and discounts we offer at more than 20,000 Auto Vantage certified service centers, hotels, and car rentals. Now get ready for the best part. For a family of 4 drivers, AAA Plus could cost you $139 or more per year. AutoVantage, $69.99. We cover you and every member of your immediate family at no additional charge, whether they're home or away. That's just the right thing to do. Advantage, AutoVantage. Call or log on now.
Call 1-800-735-4186. That's 1-800-735-4186 or log on to www.tryautovantage.com.
My name is J.D. Hayworth, and I'm employed as anchor analyst at Newsmax TV. As a free people, as Americans, there can be a unity of purpose, but it's not always unanimous. I believe what we have a chance to offer is a key choice. If you want a perspective, independent, American, original, free, it'll be here at Newsmax TV.
It's been called the second gold rush out here in Colorado. But do you agree with that? I mean, really, can anyone just sort of jump on the bandwagon?
Well, the regulatory framework is becoming more open to outsiders, if you will, but the key is being a resident for at least 2 years here in the state of Colorado. But again, it's an honor to be described as a marijuana millionaire, but at the end of the day, it's been an incredibly challenging business.
On one side of the issue, it's great and a constant punchline. Those states seeking to legalize marijuana might need to first ensure they have enough late-night drive-through cheeseburger joints and plenty of ding-dongs and ring-dings to care for the munchies overflow. But maybe we need to back off the humor, focus on some of the realities here, because what's happening in Colorado is not entirely a laughing matter to some. Welcome to MidPoint, around the dial from K-House, 630 in Denver, Colorado, where she holds down morning drive from 5 to 10 a.m. every morning. She's mile high on a daily basis. Mandy Connell joins us now on MidPoint.
You weren't supposed to tell people that I was mile high on a daily basis.
I know.
On a weekend.
They're
No,
not.
maybe every week.
They're not supposed to know. I get it. Okay, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Say no more. Okay, it's the old Monty Python bit. Hey, on a serious note, first of all, let's just get this out of the way right away. There's a story coming out, and this was in the Denver Globe, or the Denver Post rather, where it said legal pot blamed for some influx of homeless in Denver this summer. Now, I'm going to show everybody a graphic here that talks about the Salvation Army single men's shelter in Denver. Shows that last summer they were averaging about 225 men each night, now about 300 each night. It's an increase in the number of 18 to 25-year-olds. It's about a quarter of the increase, they say, is marijuana related. So is it because, as some people said, that it's young people traveling to Denver trying to find work in the pot industry and they just have no place else to stay, or is it something more serious?
Well, there's a couple things in that story, and I want to say this about the news media coverage of how pot has become legal and the legalization process and the regulations that have occurred up to this point. There has been very little in the way of negatives to report. Yeah, there have been some issues, and this story is one of those examples, but there's been a concerted effort in the news media to find the places where things are having a negative impact. You know as well as I do, Ed, if it bleeds, it leads. So they're looking for the downside, and I think they really kind of dug deep on this one. On the one hand, especially because we have an influx of younger people, and there are younger people who want to come and sit on the creek side in Boulder and get high in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains, of course, that is going to be a percentage of people, but it's a very small percentage. And something that kind of got left out of that story is that Denver has seen tremendous growth over the last few years, especially in the category of millennials. And these are not homeless millennials. These are millennials coming to Denver for opportunity because our economy has recovered very, very well from the recession. It's not perfect. It's not where it was before, but there's a lot of young people out here seeking non-pot related jobs. So I would think statistically, at least a small portion of that population would be seeking jobs in the pot industry. And, we talked about it this morning on my show because I knew I was coming on and I didn't, I wanted to kind of get a feel for the community. And I think a lot of people feel like there is some young people who simply have kind of attached a sort of glamorous ideal to living and not having any responsibilities and just sitting around in a park all day and smoking and drinking. But I don't think it's an excessive number. I don't think we're looking at throngs of homeless people coming here because of pot. I really think that the Denver Post had to dig deep and exclude the sort of growth that we've had in that age group anyway in order to make it seem like we're having homeless people every day on the streets because we have legal pot.
Then why are we getting these stories in? Is it simply just a certain faction that is looking to make sure that this fails eventually, looking to look at every single negative? You would expect, I guess, sooner or later that somebody's going to have to be even-handed in their coverage.
You know, a lot of the news media outlets, though they covered all of the sort of dire predictions that happened before the legalization went through, dire predictions that have continued as Colorado and Denver and other municipalities struggle to come up with a regulatory system and a regulatory framework that works for both the community and for people in the industry. I mean, we're still in the very early stages of this entire process. And whether they have a vested interest in trying to ensure that the industry fails, you know, I don't think it's that nefarious. I just think they're looking for something that's going to feed the crowd that didn't want pot in the first place. And they're having to reach deep to do it. There hasn't been a tremendous problem. It's gone as smoothly as I think it possibly could have, to be perfectly honest. We haven't had an uptick in crime. We haven't had an uptick in bad things. As a matter of fact, our violent crime rate dropped over the first 6 months of this year.
I want to stop you right there because I want to put some numbers to that right now. 6 months since marijuana has been legal, the Denver PD, significant reduction in crime, 38% drop in homicides, 19% drop in sexual assaults. Additionally, the data show an 11% decline in property crimes during the same time. There are those who would say that's wonderful, but it's mostly because these people can't walk once they've had a couple of quick shots.
Well, we do have good pot out here, I've heard, Ed, for people. I've just heard.
You have no personal experience whatsoever. I understand completely.
Not at all. But you know what, Ed, when you take something that has been part of the black market, where the only opportunity for people to get pot up until this point has been with criminals, and you take that part out of it and you allow people to have a legal transaction with a pot industry that is doing everything in its power to follow the law. They have a vested interest in making sure that the laws are followed to the letter of the law. And, you know, when you take the criminal element out of it, I think that you are going to see a drop in crime because you're dealing with a different caliber of people. And, you know, whether we like it in this country or not, there's a certain percentage of the population that wants to just check out when they get off work. They want to sit down, they want to have a cocktail, or they want to have a bong hit. And to act as if somehow making that illegal is going to change that, I think is unrealistic. But because the industry has been so tightly regulated, I don't think it's attractive necessarily for a criminal element that may have been a part of our city before.
30 seconds. Are they still doing a good enough job, though, keeping it out of the hands of kids under the age?
I think that's going to be an issue going forward. I think that we're going to have to worry about that. I don't think they've done enough to eliminate the black market overall. They really have to attack the black market in order to sort of streamline the process further, and I think we'll see that happen in the next year or so.
Do they get it, and the voters get it, and the lawmakers get it, even the people who are smoking get it, that this still has to be kept out of the hands of young kids?
Oh, absolutely. There's no discussion to the contrary on that. We all are in lockstep agreement that this is not a child's activity, and it is necessary and pertinent to try and keep it out of the hands of kids as much as we possibly can.
I've always said that if there was ever going to be a news network where it would be a little more than a mile high, we'll probably start in Denver, Colorado, and I think I'm probably still sure to this day as well. Mandy, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. We're all out of time, but listen, let's do it again real soon. We'll talk about more what's going on in the West and more about what you're hearing on the morning shows on K-House 630.
Thanks, Ed.
All right, thanks a lot, Mandy. Next hour, lawmakers who want to make it mandatory for a controversial new movie to be seen by every student, and it has more than a few people concerned. Next up, please, people, enough already with the Mitt Romney 2016 idea. It's my commentary in telling it like it is.
Hi, I'm Jean, and this is my one and only Henry. We just love scouring flea markets for special treasures. But with my type 2 diabetes, we now spend all the time at the pharmacy. With Medcare, I don't have to. They deliver everything I need right to my door with free shipping. Plus, Medcare takes private policies, Medicaid, even my Medicare. Sleep apnea machines, nebulizers. Medcare has all the finest medical supplies. The best part, Medcare saves us money. Medcare allows us the time to do the things we love. Medcare, we deliver a better life.
The Great Recession and the financial crisis are finally over. The stock market is way up, and that means that now all senior homeowners are financially secure. Happy days are here again. Well, that's what they keep telling us, right? But if you're a senior, 62 or over, have you recovered financially? Have you magically replaced all your retirement money? Are you suddenly all set for retirement? With a government-backed reverse mortgage, you'll never make another mortgage payment again. Instead, you'll receive money in any number of different ways that you choose. The money you get is tax-free, and there are no restrictions on how to use it. With an all-new and improved reverse mortgage, you always retain ownership of your home, so you can age in place gracefully. And your mortgage does not have to be paid off to qualify.
It makes life much easier. That was the best thing I've ever done.
Call 1-800-548-6498, 1-800-548-6498.
Tired of mops that can't reach the dirt? Do you hate wringing out mops with your bare hands?
Oh, no!
Is your mop a dirty, disgusting mess? Well, no more. It's time to meet the incredible Hurricane 360 Spin Mop System, the only mop and bucket that spins the dirt away. The mop head spins to pick up the most dirt, gets into corners and around toilet bowls. The super absorbent head picks up 10 times its weight in dirty, disgusting liquid, traps it inside, and doesn't drip. To clean it, just put it in the bucket, and like magic, it just spins the dirt away. And you will never touch dirty, disgusting mop water again. But the magic of the Spin Mop keeps on coming. The Hurricane 360 Spin Mop picks up dust and dirt at the same time. And it works on any hard surface and will never scratch or leave streaks. Its amazing bucket just can't be beat. Just dunk and spin. There's nothing else like it, guaranteed. No more touching dirty, disgusting mops, and no more getting on your hands and knees. Get the only mop that features spinning action and the revolutionary spinning bucket that cuts your cleaning time in half. Get the Hurricane 360 Spin Mop System for just 2 payments of $19.99. You'll also get a Sticky Buddy, the reusable sticky roller that picks up pet hair and lint and washes clean in seconds. You can take advantage of our limited time 2-for-1 pick it up special and get a second Spin Mop set. Just pay additional shipping and fee. You get it all: 2 spin mops, 2 mop heads, 2 revolutionary spinning buckets, and 2 sticky buddies for just 2 easy payments of $19.99. And we'll upgrade you to free priority handling. So don't wait. Order now.
Call 1-800-611-4362. That's 1-800-611-4362 to get your Hurricane Spin Mop double offer. So hurry and call now at 1-800-611-4362. That's 1-800-611-4362.
Attention parents and grandparents of young children. Gerber Life is accepting applications for their affordable Grow-Up Plan. The Grow-Up Plan gives your child $10,000 in whole life insurance protection now, then doubles automatically to $20,000 later at no extra cost. Free information will be sent to parents and grandparents who call now. Help give your child a head start for just pennies a day. Don't wait. Call now for free information.
Call 1-800-417-7939 or go to growupplan.com.
The nation, as you know, is at a critical point. At a time like this, we can't risk partisan bickering and political posturing. Our leaders have to reach across the aisle to do the people's work. And we citizens also have to rise to the occasion. We look to our teachers and professors. We count on you not just to teach, but to inspire our children with a passion for learning and discovery. We look to our pastors and priests and rabbis and counselors of all kinds to testify of the enduring principles upon which our society is built: honesty, charity, integrity, and family. We look to our parents. For in the final analysis, everything depends on the success of our homes. We look to job creators of all kinds. We're counting on you to invest, to hire, to step forward. And we look to Democrats and Republicans in government at all levels to put the people before the politics.
George Santayana was a philosopher, poet, and essayist who departed this earthly plane in 1952. He left us a number of wise notations that, if smart, we should make part of our everyday lives, no matter who we are, what we do, what we believe in, or what political persuasion we are. For instance, fanaticism consists in redoubling your efforts when you have forgotten your aim. The highest form of vanity is the love of fame. When men and women agree, it is only in their conclusions. Their reasons are always different. And the one quote that is always spoken yet often mangled by those who never bothered to learn the original, the one saying that today, right now, more than ever, is critical to the future here in America: those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. Mitt Romney's a superbly intelligent and moral man who didn't get to this current station in life by making foolish decisions or coming to rash conclusions. Whether you like him or not, respect him or make him a point of derision. On these points, no rational or intelligent person could argue. He understands history and his place in it. Mitt Romney knows, and from all outward appearances, seems content in the knowledge that he is now a part of history, and he has learned from its successes and failures.
Would you consider running for president a third time in 2016?
No, I've answered that question a number of times, as you know, and the answer is no. I'm not running for president in 2016. It's the time for someone else to take that responsibility, and I'll be supporting our nominee. And there's some very good people who are taking a very good look at that race. I'm absolutely convinced that there are other people who would have a better chance of becoming the nominee and becoming the next president of the United States better than I would have.
A CNN poll this week reignited the fires from those who either don't believe the philosophy that has been proven time and time again, those who remain delusional, or those who cannot see the future for the promise it can provide if one has vision. The poll was one of those surveys that do little more than fill airtime and make for a few fleeting moments of discussion. If the 2012 election somehow could be held again today, who would you vote for? The numbers made Romney Reese supporters puff out their chest in mock "I told you so" mode because it showed 53% of the people questioned would vote for Romney, only 44% voting for Barack Obama. It means absolutely nothing, as in less than zero. It's a news item that is good for one day, then should be relegated to the back of the mental drawer for one very good reason. As stunningly ineffective and arrogant Barack Obama's performance has been in his lame duck years, anyone could get those kind of numbers going head-to-head. Well, almost anyone.
My own investigation has revealed to me that it is not the voters who elect the president. The president is actually elected by the Electoral College. I don't want to be elected by any college. I want to be elected by the people, for the people, and in spite of the people. So remember, we have nothing to fear but fear itself and of course, the boogeyman.
Though he may currently rest in peace, there are those who would have no doubt Pat Paulson would have a great shot. If you're under 40, ask your parents or Google him. The point is the Republican Party does not need another go-round with Mitt Romney. If Republicans truly want to take back the White House, they have more than enough young, vibrant, and filled with excellent ideas, possibilities, candidates. Much of the criticism of Republicans in recent years has been they are all about the past, never about the future. And it's a warranted criticism. They need to own it, suck it up and admit it, learn from history, chart a new course with a very different America than it was only 2 years ago, or be relegated to the mental dustbin of what could have been if you had real vision. And that is telling it like it is. All right, next hour right here on MidPoint, right along those lines, a need for the GOP to evolve or wither away. It's all coming up right here, where we question everything.
When demand is high, so is opportunity. There is only so much silver in the world, and over half of all silver produced each year is used in industries that make products like cell phones, cars, and computers. This industrial demand is one reason silver has performed so well, and why some analysts are predicting a future surge in silver demand. Since silver is the lowest priced precious metal, shouldn't you see how silver can help diversify your portfolio? Goldline has been helping people acquire precious metals like gold and silver for over 50 years. Getting started is easy. Just call the number on your screen to receive our free investor kit. Shipping is free. You pay the same price using cash or credit card, and qualifying orders are eligible for Goldline's Price Guarantee Program. Call now to get started, because greater silver demand creates greater opportunities.
If you want to shed the fat and sculpt your core to get those sexy toned abs of your dreams, then stop doing sit-ups. Say what? And start dancing with Hip Hop Abs, the fun new ab sculpting system from Insanity creator Sean T.
I don't want you to ever get down on the floor to do crunches again. I'm gonna break it down so you burn the fat and sculpt those abs fast.
Just do Sean's easy to follow moves to work your upper abs, middle abs, lower abs, and obliques, all while you're dancing.
I went from a size 18 to a size 2. I have abs now. I've got a
six-pack.
And now the complete $80 Hip Hop Abs system is 75% off. That's right, Hip Hop Abs is only $19.95. We'll even upgrade you to express shipping free. Get the complete Hip Hop Abs system for only $19.95.
Call 1-800-488-9042 or order online at gethiphopabs.com. 1-800-488-9042. Call now.
The war on women. It has become to some a mantra of attack, to others a despicable description that is meant for no other purpose than to create a political discourse. But it is very real in certain parts of the world where what happens here in America pales horribly in comparison. The Republican Party needs to learn a hard lesson and learn it fast, or there remains a very real possibility their plans and message will be lost in the dust of history. And Barack Obama seems poised to once again pull out his presidential pen and take action, this time on immigration. And the public howl has only just begun. Other news programs, Posture and Preen, we promise real answers from every angle. We question everything for Tuesday, July 29th, 2014. While matters for mere mortals seem intent on occupying our every waking moment, Mother Nature has other ideas. And what is happening around the nation at this moment will make even the hardiest weather soul cringe. The focus in today's edition of News Call, later this hour. All this and a whole lot more after John Bachman delivers another edition of Newsmax Now.
And Ed, just in this afternoon, it looks like the European Union is finally ready to get tough with Russia. 2 European diplomats say new economic sanctions against Moscow are the result of continued support of Moscow's efforts there, or the rebels' efforts fighting in eastern Ukraine today. Also today, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry weighing in on new sanctions. And there's one the Obama administration said these are the ones, I should say, the ones the Obama administration was expecting yesterday.
The Ukrainians are ready to accept a mutual ceasefire now, not in the future, now. And they have proposed a peace plan that includes serious and substantive dialogue with the Russian-backed separatists, with international participation, because they understand that that is the only way that this crisis is going to come to an end.
Well, Kerry also added that Russia has failed to show, quote, a shred of evidence that it wished to end the bloodshed in Ukraine. Of course, this all follows some of the strongest language yet from the White House directed towards Vladimir Putin yesterday. The president sent a letter accusing the former Soviet nation of violating a 1987 mid-range ballistic missile treaty. Meantime, in the Middle East, also coming out this afternoon, more discussion of a potential ceasefire today. But a Palestinian Authority spokesman said that Israel must be the one bearing the consequences if it rejects the call. Meantime, at the point we heard from him, there had been no immediate response from Hamas. They're the real wild card in all this. An Israeli government spokesman brushed aside that offer of a new ceasefire. He says that until Israel hears from Hamas directly, there's no serious ceasefire talk.
We struck their leadership premises in order to strike their capabilities to carry out this ongoing onslaught against Israel. We're not prepared for these rockets to continue to strike Israel. We are not prepared that these attacks of infiltration will continue. We will sever those capabilities and strike the Hamas terrorist organization.
And there you have an update today from IDF spokesman Peter Lerner there. Overall, the Gaza death toll is now over 1,110 people. Israel has lost 53 soldiers. More news ahead in 30 minutes. Now back to Ed in MidPoint.
I don't prefer taking administrative action. I'd rather see permanent fixes to the issue we face. Certainly that's true on immigration. I've made that clear multiple times. I would love nothing more than bipartisan legislation to pass the House, the Senate, land on my desk so I can sign it. And in this situation, the failure of House Republicans to pass a darn bill is bad for our security, it's bad for our economy, and it's bad for our future. So, while I will continue to push House Republicans to drop the excuses and act, and I hope their constituents will too, America cannot wait forever for them to act. And that's why today I'm beginning a new effort to fix as much of our immigration system as I can on my own, without Congress.
In a matter of days, Congress will take yet another vacation away from the nation's capital and head home to relax, recharge, and as some people would believe, escape having to make any real hard decisions on critical issues. At the very top of more than a few lists would be the immigration disaster along the southern border, and what is now a very real fear that the president is simply waiting for Washington to empty out, and he will then deliver scathing directives that would change the course of America forever. Let's welcome to MidPoint investigative reporter for CSN News, one who is at the border and is seeing what's happening firsthand and can opine on what this may indeed actually entail. Brittany Hughes joins us. Brittany, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Ed.
Brittany, tell us where you are and what you're seeing here in the last 24 hours.
Well, I'm currently in Washington, D.C., but we were at the border a couple of weeks ago, and the mess down there is just, it's really tragic. It's tragic all the way around. You have thousands of people every day. One border security officer told us that it was upwards of 1,200 people a day who are crossing, and there doesn't seem to be any stemming of the tide at all. You've got women and children mostly, but then you also have a lot of single adults who are coming across, and everything that we have heard tells us that they're coming across because they believe that they're going to get a permiso, or a free pass to the United States once they get here.
When you sit and talk with them, or have you had a chance to actually talk to some of them who are coming across the border?
We did. We actually went to the border late one night, and that tends to be when the vast majority of them do cross. They come across on rafts. They're brought over by smugglers who are on the Mexican side of the border, and then they're brought across late at night in groups of anywhere between 30 and 40 to upwards of 100 people at a time, and they're dropped off in very dangerous, very brushy areas of the border. And we were able to speak with several of them in Spanish. They did not speak English, and they told us that they had been told if they came to the United States that they would be able to send their children to school and that they could be reunited with some family members that they already had over here in various places. One was from North Carolina. She said her husband was in North Carolina and that she planned to go meet him there. But she had also brought across her niece, who was only 9 years old, and she was going to send her niece to her mother in Miami. So it really depends on who you speak to, but the vast majority of them, from everything that we heard, are coming to meet family members who are already in the United States.
So you're not seeing a lot of the unaccompanied minors that we're hearing a lot about. You found a lot of families.
There are a lot of families. There are a lot of unaccompanied minors, however. But what you have to understand about unaccompanied minors is that doesn't mean that they cross the border with no one. An unaccompanied minor simply means that they cross the border without a parent or a guardian. So a lot of these kids are coming across with extended relatives that they have lived with, some of them for most of their childhood, because their parents are already in the United States. So a lot of these unaccompanied kids, especially the youngest ones, are coming across with extended relatives. Not all, but a lot. The unaccompanied minors who are coming across completely by themselves tend to be teenagers within the 13 to 17-year-old range, which, again, in a lot of Latin American countries would qualify you as an adult in some cases, but in the United States they are treated as minors.
A lot of the people that you talk to, let's see if we can find out what the truth of the matter is here, because we hear from a lot of different reports that they are hearing some of these children, young adults, whatever, saying, Obama will take care of us. Obama will set the way for us. Obama will get us a job. Do you hear the president's name mentioned much? Are they that knowledgeable of what's happening, or what are they being told?
Well, a lot of the things that they were told, at least those that we spoke to, they were told these things kind of through the grapevine, through hearsay, in their own countries. We didn't hear anybody say specifically that Obama would help them, but I have seen other reports from other news organizations that that's exactly what a lot of these kids say, especially we've seen photos of some of them wearing Obama t-shirts. So whether or not the group that I spoke to had heard that President Obama was going to help them specifically, I really couldn't say. They have just heard that the United States will help them, that the United States will let them stay.
Do you find them mostly in good health?
Many of them, yes, at least as far as you can tell. A lot of them were very clean when they came across, but health is something that's very difficult to ascertain. because some of them come in and they don't start showing symptoms of anything until they're already within the United States and they're being detained at one of these Border Patrol facilities. And the problem is that a lot of these detention facilities are not equipped to do in-depth health screening. So they can screen for basic things, but by the time they find out someone has a very chronic illness, a lot of times they've already been in the United States for a week, and that is what can cause outbreaks of anything from scabies and lice to something like H1N1.
Realizing, of course, that you didn't see everybody coming across and realizing there's a lot of things that can be hidden from anybody here, but did you see any evidence of gang members, MS-13, anyone coming across that looked as if they may not be actually there seeking asylum or coming from these South American countries?
When we were actually standing at the border and we had groups of people coming across, the groups that I saw were women and children. But before we actually visited the border itself, we went to one of the detention facilities where they're housing a lot of these people. The one that we went to was the station in McAllen, Texas, which is one of the most overcrowded Border Patrol stations that there is right now. And you saw a lot of teenagers, mostly male teenagers. There were a lot of family units and a lot of kids. But yes, there were a lot. They have them separated into unaccompanied minors up to age 14, which is what they call tender age minors, and then unaccompanied minors 15 to 17. And then once they're 18, they're put in the adult category. And there were a lot of rooms that were just crammed full, frankly, of unaccompanied minors who were teenagers. Whether they're members of gangs like MS-13, there's really no way of knowing. And that's one of the problems that Border Patrol is facing right now, is we really don't know.
Did you see any evidence whatsoever of militia or Minutemen? And I ask this because we had a group on yesterday, the leader of a group, the Minutemen. They claim they're looking for over 3,000 people to go from San Diego to Texas and be there as part of a militia effort to stop the kids. And I have to be very frank with you, what we talked about with him yesterday was the danger it is of having people there, militia, who are armed many times, and you have Border Patrol and you have National Guard troops all in the same area. That's almost a recipe for disaster in many ways. Did you see any evidence of militia or anybody there supposedly trying to help?
We didn't see any evidence of militia at the place that we were at. No, there was nobody on the border other than Border Patrol officers. But where we were at was a particularly difficult area. You have a park, you have Anzalduras Park, where a lot of recreational activities takes place, and so you had a lot of citizens. But the area that we went to, where the border actually was, which comes right up to the Rio Grande River, is very, very brushy and is very difficult to get down into if you don't have the proper vehicle. And parts of it are also protected. They're wildlife reserves, so you can't actually get in there unless you are with Border Patrol or another authoritative agency. So no, we didn't see anything like that. We've heard since we were there that there have been groups who have organized like that. There have also been ranchers who are very upset, but that tends to be further away from the border. So as it pertains to where we were, we did not see anything like that.
As a reporter, now that you're back home in Washington, talking about a story that everybody is mentioning, I talked about in the lead in here that the president seems to be poised right now to use his executive pen to pretty much allow the illegal immigrants coming in right now. What are you hearing? You're reporting the people that you're talking to right now, and there has to be a lot of concern about this and really a lot of anger, I would guess.
And there is, at least on the GOP side, a lot of Republicans are basically saying, look, we're already wanting to sue the president over overreach via executive actions that he took as it pertains to Obamacare, but now you've got him threatening to take executive action over the immigration issue. The problem, though, is that no one really knows exactly what that executive action may entail, so it's difficult to determine what the response is going to be, and I think that would depend on what it is exactly that he wants to do.
Now we hear from John Boehner today they're not going to talk about impeachment anymore. He says that's not going to be on the table at this point. 30 seconds left, I guess. Do you get the feeling now that the president might just be waiting for everybody, John Boehner and compatriots, to leave, and then something may happen once Washington is empty?
you know, I really am not sure what he's thinking in terms of whether or not he really wants a bill to pass in Congress or not. But what I can tell you is that as far as John Boehner is concerned, he simply says that he does not plan to take action to impeach the president. That's not something that's on his agenda. Other Republican leaders have said that that's not on their agenda. The only ones that we've really heard say anything definitively about plans to impeach the president are the Democrats, who accuse the Republicans of wanting to take such action. But we have not heard anything from any Republican leadership that says that that's what they plan to do.
On it goes. Brittany Hughes from CNS News. Wonderful job working at the border. Thank you so much. We will talk to you again. Later on this hour, the real war on women, much more dangerous and dastardly than you could possibly imagine, right here on MidPoint.
I met St. Jude because I had a cancer inside of me. They diagnosed me with a brain tumor. You have to be strong and don't give up. Attitude is everything. You have to fight.
Imagine your doctor tells you your child has cancer with only months to live. Where would you go? What would you do? Who would you turn to? Fortunately, St. Jude Children's Research Hospital is fighting every day to save children's lives. And with a gift of just $19 a month, you can join the fight.
This is my kid that they're giving back to me. I am so grateful.
At St. Jude, no family ever receives a bill. In fact, no family pays St. Jude for anything. That's why your gift of $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, is so important.
When I thought that I might lose my son, they gave me hope. You are not only saving a child's life, you're breathing life back into that family.
If I hadn't have come here, I wouldn't have my son.
St. Jude's life-saving research and treatment is shared freely with hospitals around the world.
St. Jude gives you hope and happiness. They're helping us live. Maybe in the future, kids won't have to go through this. We'll find a cure and it'll all be over.
Please, call and become a St. Jude Partner in Hope right now.
On Newsmax TV, Governor Rick Perry sends troops to the border to make it safe. But why is Obama so angry? Watch J.D. Hayworth today and get the real facts on America's Forum. Watch it on Newsmax TV.
The GOP bench is much deeper than the Democratic bench here. It's basically Hillary or bust among Democrats. I was also surprised at how well Jeb Bush and Chris Christie are doing. In Republican circles, there are deal-breaker issues there, supposedly on immigration with Jeb Bush and on, moderation on climate change and gun control with Chris Christie. Voters seem to be telling pollsters otherwise, which is interesting.
Last hour, my commentary focused on a poll this week that asked about who people would vote for if they could redo the 2012 election. Seeing as I spoke personally with Mandrake the Magician, Dr. Strange, and even Captain James Tiberius Kirk about this possibility and came to the conclusion it can never actually happen, my conclusion was that certain people need to move on and deal with what can actually really happen instead of flights of science fiction fancy. It's germane because certain people need to grasp reality and take into account what the future really holds and how to best address that future. Let's get to it. Welcome into the arena, conservative strategist Jimmy LaSalvia and political columnist and commentator for the Tea Party News Network, Scotty Nell Hughes. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody.
Hi, Ed. Thank you.
All right, here we go. Let's get right to it. Jimmy, I'm going to give you the first shot on this one here today, seeing as you now are at the bottom of the screen, so let's start there. I was the one who said that it is time to stop thinking about Mitt Romney for 2016. Come on, Republicans, move on here. There's got to be a future in here. Isn't that all part of this whole change here that the Republicans need to work on, or else they're just going to continue to get stuck in the same old mud?
Right. One of the things that I cited several months ago when I decided to leave the Republican Party and work outside of the party was that I really think that there is a cultural disconnect among Republicans, the Republican establishment and party activists, and the American people just don't think that Republicans are living in reality or living in America today. And we saw that in the last presidential election when people thought Mitt Romney was old-fashioned or out of touch. And, you know, while we had a failed president, Republicans couldn't beat him with a good manager, with a good economic plan, because voters just didn't think the Republican Party and Mitt Romney was living in reality in 2012.
All right.
And so we've got to move beyond that so that, you know, they can hopefully maybe win again in the future.
Let's go ahead and stop there now. Scotty Nell, it's to you. Living in reality, indeed. Is that the biggest problem the Republicans have?
I think both sides could say that neither party's living in reality. Washington, D.C. is not the same thing as what's going on in Oklahoma City or Tulsa or any other Midwestern city. But I think it's not necessarily talking about their policies and going maybe more realistic, or is what some might define as realistic when it comes to social agendas. It's talking about, how do we sit here and pay for $5.32 for a gallon of milk? And how do I handle $4 a gallon to fill up my SUV? That's the reality that they need to face, that I don't know if we'll ever be able to convince the politicians in D.C. to be able to handle, as long as we're sitting there and we're allowing career politicians to be elected and put back in office.
Yeah,
and that's on both sides of the aisle, not just Republicans.
Don't the politicians have to tell the people and make the people understand, and at least try to convince them that we're the ones to be able to do this? We're the ones who actually will tell you the truth. We're the ones who are part of the change here. They don't seem thus far to be able to get that message across.
Well, they're not doing a very good job with that. But I'm here in the state of Tennessee where right now, Lamar Alexander, who is a perfect example of a career politician, he has been in politics literally, I think, since 18. And all of a sudden, he's put back on, when he comes back to Tennessee, he puts back on his flannel shirt and he decides to take a bus tour or walk back across the state. That is their idea of being able to sell it to the people of Tennessee. And guess what? It works, because he continues to get reelected. But when he goes back up to Washington, D.C., his votes are anything like the people he represents. It's all about who has the better PR firm, the better PR advisors. And unfortunately, on the campaign trail, the people who are the most realistic and telling the honest truth, those are the guys that don't get the money, that don't get the people behind them, and unfortunately are the ones that continue to lose.
Jimmy, here we go. That evolved adapt or die. It seems like what happens is you just go ahead, you show up home for a little while, show back in Washington. There's no consistency.
Well, what Scotty is talking about is Lamar showing that he's connected and culturally connected. Because frankly, nobody cares what your plan is for taxes and jobs if they don't think that your plan is based in reality. So he's doing a good PR thing there by showing that he is living in reality. But Scotty hits on a great point there. America is fed up with the parties. And the parties have existed to perpetuate their own power. And so most Americans today are asking themselves, who am I going to vote for in November? Am I going to vote for a Senate candidate who's going to vote for Mitch McConnell for majority leader, or Harry Reid for majority leader? Am I going to replace one out-of-touch old white guy who got us into this mess for another guy, exactly the same? And so Scotty hit on a great point. And I think that Republicans are in a weaker position, not in the midterms, but nationally for 2016 because of their disconnect on cultural issues. But in the overall scheme of things, we've got to look at reforming the process so that these parties don't continue their stranglehold on our government and the process.
All right, Scotty Nell, a weaker position for 2016, you agree?
I agree right now, and unfortunately, I believe that if we held the election tomorrow, that if Hillary Clinton was at the top of the Democratic ticket, unless you have somebody as exactly opposite of her, like a Ted Cruz, we would be in trouble. And Mitt Romney versus Hillary Clinton, we would need to start redecorating the Oval Office with roses and pink tulip border. I think we would be having to usher her in. But a really good point is, I don't know necessarily if it's the social issues that are not necessarily allowing the Republican to relate. I think it is that the establishment, those old guard, those ones that continue, they are so protective of themselves. They are willing to put their own integrity ahead, the Republican Party integrity ahead of what's actually good for the people.
Okay, didn't you just say then they're more interested in their paycheck? Isn't that what it comes down to?
That's exactly what it is. They're more interested in keeping themselves in office than doing what's good for the country. You know, I think these guys go to Washington. I like to think they went up there with good intentions originally back in the 1800s when some of them went up there for the first time. But unfortunately, they've stayed there too long. They've patrolled the halls of Congress with the other cockroaches, and they've evolved into people that do not exist. And unfortunately, in the case of Lamar Alexander, putting on a flannel shirt doesn't always really work for those of us. But he's got a great PR turn.
I am going to say one thing, though. I think that if you put some people into that sentence, you just insulted some cockroaches, but we're not going to talk about the people that you may or may not have been talking about there. Right. There is a moment here. Hang on, Jimmy. You always got to be careful of the following joke after that one. Let's move on to what Rand Paul has said. Rand Paul seems to be going after what some people are considering a conservatarian line, that in order for the conservatives, in order for Republicans to thrive, they need to bring the libertarians in a little bit closer here. He seems to have a lot of success with it. Certainly when he visited Northern California, he had an awful lot of people saying that he was the guy that they might actually consider. So is that what we're talking about here? Bring the libertarians into it a little more?
Well, I think that there can be agreement on the role of government on a lot of issues. We might disagree on the outcome of the issue, but we can find agreement where we can say the government shouldn't have a role in that. I will say that Rand Paul talks out of both sides of his mouth, though. He has, on one side, tried to portray himself as a libertarian, and on another side, he does things like sponsor the conference next week in Iowa, sponsored by the Family Leader Organization, which is an organization that exists to oppose homosexuality and demonize gay people, something that is far outside the mainstream. But one thing I'll just go back to something we said before was to demonstrate just how out of touch the establishment is. A lot of us read the email that the RNC sent out last week that asked, have you abandoned the GOP? And the backlash that they received from that, from activists and grassroots conservatives, should tell you everything you need to know about the state of the Republican Party.
And to be fair on that, to point out exactly what that was basically a look for donations. That was asking for money.
Right. And they asked, have you abandoned the GOP? And the backlash was essentially, yes. And you haven't done anything to show that we should come back. And, you know, when they should have been issuing an apology. We're sorry. We've strayed. We need your help to make things right again.
Okay, I'm almost out of time, Jimmy. I got to stop. Now, let me give you 30 seconds real quick and stay to it. What's the first step the Republicans need to do from here?
Oh, gosh.
Hang on 1 sec, Scotty. Jimmy first. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think there's 100 different things they need to do. And first and foremost is to step back on the anti-gay stuff. I think it crosses all demographics and hurts them badly.
All right, Scotty Nell Hughes, you got 30 seconds. First thing they got to do right now.
It's not about social issues. Let's get back to the founding principles that separates the Republicans from the Democrats. That's called responsible spending. We can all sit there and debate social issues till we go blue. If we don't have money in our pocket, then we don't have anything to talk about. We need to get our economy. The Republicans have traditionally have had a better plan to get this economy kicking. We need to go back. We need to stop the word compromise with the Democrat. Let's talk fiscal first, then we can deal with the social issues after we get our economy back on the right track.
Scotty Nell Hughes and Jimmy LaSalvia, we're going to have to make this a weekly appearance, if you will, because it's fun every single time. We thank you both for your time and your comments.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, later this hour on MidPoint, it's never nice to fool nor discount Mother Nature. And next up, your ice cream sandwich is now a permanent part of Outland. Think about that for just a minute. We'll put it all in perspective when we continue on MidPoint, where we question everything.
Hi, I'm Jean, and this is my one and only Henry. We just love scouring flea markets for special treasures. But with my type 2 diabetes, we now spend all our time at the pharmacy. With Medcare, I don't have to. They deliver everything I need right to my door with free shipping. Plus, Medcare takes private policies, Medicaid, even my Medicare. Sleep apnea machines, nebulizers. Medcare has all the finest medical supplies. The best part, Medcare saves us money. Medcare allows us the time to do the things we love. Medcare, we deliver a better life.
Pat Boone here with a question. Which asset class has grown five-fold over the last decade? It's not stocks, not bonds, not even real estate. Precious metals, that's right. Silver and gold are real money, and they have been for thousands of years. They're a trustworthy dollar alternative and money worldwide. Best of all, precious metal prices are still within reach for every American. I've been suggesting buying precious metals for years now, and to show you how sincerely I mean it, my friends at Swiss America will send you a free silver ingot just for making time to discuss the value of owning some gold and silver as wealth insurance. Why don't you call them now at the number below, or visit SwissAmerica.com and you'll be rewarded in silver. Life's full of dark clouds. Swiss America can help you find their silver and gold lining today.
Are you prepared for the coming geopolitical storm that will radically alter the military, political, and economic landscape as we know it? Events unfolding within the next 6 months will have consequences for all Americans and inescapable worldwide economic impact. Langley Intelligence Group Network. LIGNET is a globally recognized intelligence resource with a senior advisory board consisting of former CIA analysts, national security officers, and presidential advisors. LIGNET's seasoned intelligence and security experts have now issued a global forecast that is must-reading for those who need to be in the know. This in-depth analysis arms individuals, investors, corporations, and governments with the tools to position themselves for success in this rapidly changing environment. Sign up now and access the LIGNET Global Forecast for just $1. Receive 30 days of full access to LIGNET's penetrating global analysis. Join LIGNET today. Go to www.lignet.com/global.
Have you or someone you know developed serious complications from surgery using a transvaginal mesh? The FDA recently issued a warning that transvaginal mesh can cause serious side effects and complications, such as additional surgery, perforations, vaginal scarring, and mesh erosion or disintegration. Over 20,000 severe complications have been recorded, and so far there have been 2 jury verdicts totaling more than $830 million for injured victims. You won't pay a thing until your case is settled. Call us today.
Welcome back. I'm Francesca Page, and here's your Newsmax Now update. House Speaker John Boehner says the GOP is continuing to focus on jobs and the economy. The Republican congressman says that it is America's top priority. Boehner says the Skills Act passed by President Obama last week is a step in the right direction, but made clear today that there's still plenty of work to do. And Boehner went on to say that Americans aren't just asking where the jobs are, they're asking where the president is. That's because many Americans don't think Obama is doing enough for job creation in America. And in New York, 2 U.S. Marshals and a police officer are recovering after a shootout with a fugitive in Lower Manhattan. The fugitive was shot and killed after he tried to flee and then engaged in a shootout with authorities. Investigators say Charles Mosdier skipped town after being accused of molesting a child. That's your Newsmax Now update. Now back to MidPoint.
Here we go. Wait a minute. There it is. Didn't want you to think I was just talking and you couldn't hear me. It's all right. Don't worry. Everything's good. There we go. Thank you very much, Francesca. It is the place where the special people dwell. You know the type. Those you pass in the grocery store wearing leggings several sizes too small. The ones who have far too many things hanging from their rearview mirror. Those who have a collection of garden gnomes in their yard. They have given each of them a special name and a place where they were born. These are the folks from Outland. Their deeds and desires noted dutifully here from time to time. And we need to note a few more people today that we are going to put into, I don't know if we want to call it the Hall of Fame, not even the Hall of Shame, but maybe just a place of notice for those in Outland. First of all, how many of you have ever had an ice cream sandwich? Let's face it. Okay, put up your hand. Everybody has. It's summertime. You get them from time to time. Well, there was a mother of 2 young children who was wondering what exactly was in the ice cream sandwiches these days. Christy Watson's her name. Kids love to eat ice cream sandwiches, so what she did was she took an uneaten ice cream sandwich out of the freezer one day and she sat it right on her patio table. Now, the temperature probably was maybe about, 80, 85, 90 degrees, sets it right there on the table. And she let it sit there. 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 12 hours later, the ice cream sandwich had barely melted. Matter of fact, it didn't really melt at all. You would think, of course, that ice cream would probably melt. But see, this is a Walmart Great Value ice cream sandwich. We have to make note of it, because that's exactly what it was. She thought it was just a little bit weird, so then what she did is she took another ice cream sandwich out of the freezer. Follow me on this one, okay? I know this is difficult sometimes. We're going from 2 ice cream sandwiches. She grabs the second one. She takes it and she leaves it out overnight. Comes up in the morning. Same result. The ice cream sandwich did not melt. So she contacts Walmart and really didn't get much of an answer for it. So there were some folks who decided to put out different ice cream sandwiches and find out Haagen-Dazs, Klondike, the Walmart sandwich, and they found that the Walmart sandwich stayed exactly the same. Everything else melted. The Walmart one didn't. So here's what they got from Walmart, by the way. And this is a quote. Ice cream melts based on the ingredients, including cream. Cream is liquid. Liquid melts. Let me continue, if I will. Ice cream with more cream, thankfully, will generally melt at a slower rate, which is the case with our Great Value ice cream sandwiches. I know I'm never going to be allowed in Walmart ever again as long as I live, but this is only the truth here. They continue. In the frozen aisles, Great Value ice cream sandwiches are one of the top sellers, and we are glad to be able to offer a great treat that families love. They didn't bother to add, of course, the gums and emulsifiers that slow the melt of the ice cream sandwich. They did, of course, not bother to even tell us exactly what was in it, but we sort of guessed at this moment. We will, from time to time, keep you up to date on what happens with ice cream sandwiches, because why? We feel it's necessary that America knows. All right? There is one other note from Outland that we need to make a note of here. A Delta Airlines pilot having a bad day communicating with Atlanta Hartsfield-Jackson ATC. The pilot in command on Delta 242 did not take well to a suggestion that he was on the wrong taxiway. He and the controller had a little bit of a discussion, like this.
Delta 2422 supposed to be on Mike.
Yes, sir. We're going out there right now.
Looks like you joined Lima.
Hey, you know what? We'll taxi out there any way we want when you tell us to. I don't like your attitude.
I don't have an attitude, sir. I'm just saying it looks like you joined Lima instead of Mike. And I'm just trying to correct you before you stay on Lima.
Okay, because my God, there's another plane out there. It's like 6 miles away. Your attitude is really something, sir. We're out here on Mike. Good morning.
Good morning. There was no attitude. I was just trying to correct you. That's my job, to correct you if you mess up. I'm trying to make sure everybody's done what I asked them to do for certain reasons.
All right, I make a mistake every 2 to 3 minutes, but my attitude is not like yours. We're out on Mike, and you didn't tell us how to get there, so next time you can try doing that. Settle down, Captain Happy.
There was another pilot somewhere. We don't know who he was, but he gets our award to be an Outland specialist. And finally, from Garden City, Colorado, here's what happens when you drive drunk. Drive anything, as a matter of fact.
This is the lawnmower Weld County deputies say 53-year-old Kenneth Welton was drunkenly driving from bar to bar along 8th Avenue in Garden City.
He couldn't stand on his own, and he just showing signs of impairment.
Sergeant Sean Standridge says deputies arrested Welton Tuesday night after getting 911 calls from concerned drivers. From jail today, Welton, whose driver's license had already been revoked prior to Tuesday, told us he was not using the lawnmower to get around, but instead to take care of overgrown weeds.
It's just surprise, it's total shock, you know. What, are you kidding me? I've been working.
We make fun of this, but the sheriff there said, and I quote, "This is not a joke. As of date, we've had 25 fatalities on our roadways in Weld County, 9 of which have been related to alcohol, so we're having zero tolerance on any type of unsafe traffic behavior, drinking and driving, driving while ability impaired, driving under the influence of marijuana, or any other type of drug." And it happened in Colorado. I'm just glad that that's not taking care of my friend's lawn care service. You'll be able to tell. It's wonderful straight lines. It's not exactly what Coors Field might have. Welcome to Outland. Next hour on MidPoint, not enough jobs in America. Bring in more people looking for work. Why not? It's coming up right here on MidPoint.
How long have you had your car insurance?
How long have I had my car insurance? I don't know, 8, 10 years?
Well, I couldn't tell you, but things were a lot less expensive back then.
If you're 50 or over, you should take a new look at your auto insurance. You may be overpaying.
Actually, that makes a lot of sense. Old policy, old rates.
And thanks to your experience behind the wheel, you might save $404 by switching to the AARP auto insurance program from the Hartford. Plus, you'll get benefits that reward your driving record, like our promise that you won't be dropped.
Wait, you won't drop me? Seriously?
That's right, you won't be dropped. And if you know anyone who's been dropped by their insurance company, you know that's a hassle you don't need.
Especially these days.
Plus, you'll get Recover Care, which helps pay for everyday needs like house cleaning, lawn care, and pet services if you're injured in an accident.
So my auto insurance is going to help pay the house cleaning if I'm injured?
Did you say lawn care?
And if I can't walk my dog, they'll help me pay someone to do it for me.
Call the number on your screen to switch to the AARP auto insurance program from the Hartford and be rewarded for your experience behind the wheel.
Recover Care, auto insurance that helps take care of me. Now I've seen it all.
You won't drop me, you take care of me as well as my car, and you offer savings to switch. It's unbelievable.
If you're 50 or over, call now to request your free quote.
I'm gonna call.
I'm calling.
I'm calling.
I'm calling.
Call the Hartford at the number on your screen to request your free quote. 1-888-529-1797. We'll even send you this free calculator. Call 1-888-529-1797 now. Why wait?
Tonight we are a country awakened to danger and called to defend freedom.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
One day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Christians in Iraq are living in fear as ISIS takes over territory with the threat of slaughter. The radical jihadist group took over Mosul last month. Saturday, militants bombed and burned Christian property and several churches in Mosul, including this 1,800-year-old church.
In a society that thrives on one-liners and snarky partisan political barbs, there is one that is, to many, the most offensive at all: the war on women. From both sides, it is seen as insulting, destructive, and more often than not, three words that prove the person or persons using it here in America have no idea what it really means. Welcome into MidPoint, editor-in-chief at thelevant.com, established as a place for journalists and analysts with an interest in covering and discussing the Middle East. Catherine Shackdam joins us today. Catherine, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Catherine, we always hear that phrase here in America, the war on women. It is used in a partisan sense, Democrats versus Republicans. It is used to make a political point. When we look at what ISIS has doing at this moment, female members terrorizing women who do not follow the caliphate's rules, is it not fair to say that there is simply nothing more heinous and more despicable than what is being done in subjugating these women?
I completely agree with you. As a woman myself, I can completely relate to to what is happening in Syria and in Iraq. You have to understand that the logic, the narrative that they follow is absolutely is they want to brainwash young women and young men to believe into radical Islam, into their understanding of radical Islam, which has nothing to do with what Islam actually stands for. And what they're doing is, they're trying to wreak havoc into society. They're trying to rearrange and reorganize, social order and religious order in the Middle East. And it's actually quite dangerous that they managed to tap into a brand new demographic. They're trying to brainwash, young women. You have seen how in Europe, there is this new jihadi girl power, if you like, that is slowly emerging. That is really, really dangerous because they tap it into this narrative whereby women think that they're being empowered by those radicals, that they have a purpose, that they have a greater calling, to serve Islam, and they are completely, they themselves wish to, they are putting their own, shackles. They are wearing them and they are loving them, and it's actually really, it's angering me because I don't understand why women would agree to basically, have other people being, become enslaved. They're enabling this system. They are trying to enslave other women. In Syria, what's happening in Raqqa city, which has become the Islamic capital of Syria for the Islamic State, they have set up a brigade, which is called Al-Qansa Brigade, and they're having women spy on other women and, attack other women, arrest other women, if they do not wear the veil properly, if they do not, walk in the street with a male chaperone, if they do not abide by, whatever rules the Islamic Caliphate decided to set in place. And this has nothing to do, and I really think it's important to stress it out, that it has nothing to do with Islam. Islam does not require women to become slaves.
Okay, let me stop you there for a moment because I want to get on the religion thing here and I want to bring a quote into this. This is Abu Ahmad, an ISIS official, and we should point out to people that this is ISIS-run in many ways. The name of the brigade is the Al-Qansa Brigade, an all-female unit operating in the cities in Iraq. Here is Abu Ahmad. We have established the brigade to raise awareness of our religion among women and to punish women who do not abide by the law. There are only women in this brigade, and we have given them their own facilities to prevent the mixture of men and women. Here's the big thing, Catherine. There are people here who are saying this is religion. They continue to point to the Muslim faith as the reason why this is being done. My question to you, are they using it simply as an excuse? Are we looking at men here who quite frankly enjoy being sadistic and subjugating women? Men who perhaps are not clear in their own sexuality here, who see women as some sort of a threat? What's the reality?
But I think the main thing is like they're using religion and they're taking things that women have to abide by in Islam, and they're taking it completely out of context, and they're trying to radicalize society and use basically Islam against women and to enslave them. And I think I agree with you when you say that I think they feel threatened by women, and they do not want women because they understand that women are basically the pillar of society. They will raise the next generation. So if they manage to enslave them, they will be able to create a very malleable society. People will be more inclined to to follow whatever rules will be set in place by them. What they want to do is exactly what the Taliban has done in Afghanistan. They're trying to completely turn women into slaves and into objects and tools to be disposed of and sold off for whatever they want to do.
Is that simply it here, Catherine? Are we looking at a society where the men who are involved in this simply look at women as nothing more than chattel or cattle or animals that they can basically use and abuse at their own will?
But yes, when you see that some Salafi cleric actually call for sexual jihad, calling young women to willingly sell their body for jihadists. I mean, it is quite sick. To actually, be able to carry a narrative like this and, entitled as being religious. And you have to understand that, in Islam, and I think that's something that people don't understand. Islamic radicals are using Islam, but they are distorting Islam. Islam does not require women to make this kind of sacrifice. There is no such thing as sexual jihad. It does not exist. Now, there is something that I think people need to understand when it comes to the veil, because, I think it's,
very
it's something
quickly, please.
Yes, very quickly. If you look, when people go for Hajj, which is, the pilgrimage that Muslims have to do at least once in their life, you are not required, and you're actually forbidden to wear a face veil for women. It is unlawful, under Islam. So why would, cleric, call on women and oblige women to wear a face veil and say that it is, to abide by, what the Quran is, ordering women to do? It is completely false. It is something that it is a distortion of Islam. And I think those people are quite sick, and they are trying to sell, their narrative as being Islamic when indeed it is not. As a Muslim and as a woman, I completely reject what they're saying, and I do not recognize myself in the kind of preaching they're doing. It is completely absurd, and Islam actually promotes women's rights. I'm not saying that people are abiding by it or applying it in any way, shape, or form. I think there's a lot of lagging and lacking when it comes to women's rights in the Middle East. But I think it's completely wrong to say that Islam advocates women enslavement.
Let me do this. I only have 15 seconds left. 15 seconds. How do you react when you hear the words "war on women" used here in America, and you know what's happening in your country and in other countries?
Well, I think it makes me angry because when I see how women are treated in the Middle East, I think we need to kind of reevaluate. But I think we need people need to understand that the focus now should be on the Middle East. People need to be fighting this terror and try to not buy into this narrative, and I think more needs to be done when it comes to women. Women's rights are, you know, an issue that is, you know, global and universal, I would say. But I think, you know, in a way, I think women in America should understand what women are going through in the Middle East, because we have the same.
We need to leave it there, unfortunately. We are all out of time. Catherine, you've done an excellent job pointing it out. Thank you very much for your time. We will speak again, and we will continue right here on MidPoint, where we question everything.
Smile.
No matter how well you provide for your family today, if you don't have life insurance, their future may be at risk. Think about what would happen if you were gone. Would they struggle to pay the bills and face an uncertain future? They don't have to. You can help guarantee those you love $200,000, $500,000, $750,000 or more with life insurance through AIG Direct. We'll help you get more for your money, up to 70% more. Just look, less than $14 a month buys a 40-year-old man a $250,000 term life policy. That's up to 3 times what you can get from other companies for the same price. No wonder millions of people rely on AIG companies. The call is free, the quote is free, and there's no obligation. Make the future more secure for those you love. Call now so you can sleep better at night.
For a free quote, call 1-800-558-5246 or visit AIGdirect.com. One of the Miller twins has a hearing problem, and she's fed up with the daily hassle of her old hearing aid. So she got a Lyric in her life, and everything changed. Which one? You'll never know, because the Lyric is in her ear, 100% invisible. You can't see it, and it's the only device that works round the clock with 0 daily hassle. No batteries to change, no taking off and putting on every day. Sound good? Call 1-800-411-5532 now. This is the Lyric. Lyric fits comfortably right next to your eardrum to deliver truly natural sound quality. In fact, 95% of users prefer Lyric sound quality to their old hearing aid. Now the Miller twin with Lyric can hear and do most everything her sister does 24/7. An invisible hearing aid is wonderful. Finding one with 0 daily hassle, too good to pass up. Call 1-800-411-5532 right now and ask about your risk-free 30-day trial. Get a Lyric in your life.
Do you sleep too hot while your partner sleeps too cool? Do you struggle to sleep at the right temperature? Now Sleep Number has a solution that's as revolutionary as its beds. Introducing the Sleep Number Dual Temp Layer. The amazing Sleep Number Dual Temp Layer allows both of you to select your ideal temperature for better sleep. The Sleep Number Dual Temp Layer works with any mattress brand. It features Active Air technology, which evenly distributes air to heat and cool each side to the temperature you prefer for head-to-toe comfort. Call or click now for this free $50 savings card and catalog.
My husband and I both prefer different temperatures. He likes to have his side of the bed a little bit warmer, and I like to have mine a little bit cooler, and we are finally sleeping better together.
After sleeping on a dual temp layer, I find that I have such a restful night's sleep that when I wake up in the morning, I am energized and I'm ready for the day.
All night long, you can each enjoy sleep at a temperature that perfectly matches what your body needs for comfortable sleep, so you can sleep better together. In a research study, 75% reported poor sleep because of their sleeping temperature. That's because your body's temperature naturally fluctuates at night. But with the Sleep Number Dual Temp Layer, you can sleep comfortably warm or cool. And because the revolutionary Sleep Number Dual Temp Layer helps solve an important sleep problem, it was selected as a very innovative product by Good Housekeeping. Remember, the Sleep Number Dual Temp Layer can be added to any mattress brand, so everyone can enjoy sleeping better at the perfect temperature. Call or click now.
Call 1-800-317-5283 or click now for a free $50 savings card and catalog with price list. For your peace of mind, the Sleep Number Dual Temp Layer comes with a 100-night in-home trial. Call 1-800-317-5283 or click now. That's 1-800-317-5283 for your free $50 savings card and catalog.
There was a butter commercial decades ago that launched the phrase, "It's not nice to fool Mother Nature." These days it means so much more than just a food marketing phrase. For the grand old lady is turning Americans inside and out, weather-wise of late, with a cold blast of air showing up in July, parts of the Midwest seeing temperatures 10 to 20 degrees colder, and weather anomalies showing up in parts of the country for the first time ever, leaving us to conclude And at the moment, there's no more gripping story here in our own backyard than what's happening with Mother Nature. The focus in this edition of News Call.
Oh my God! This was the first time a tornado had touched down in this part of Massachusetts since record keeping began in 1950.
Look at the trees, they all broke!
Winds blew more than 111 miles per hour here. Dozens of trees were knocked down and streets were flooded. Derek Castle lost the roof to his house.
The winds pretty much just picked up out of nowhere. It just kind of went crazy. The winds were just all over the place.
The same system destroyed 10 homes in eastern Tennessee, where the storm dumped hail and caused power lines to explode.
Patty took us upstairs.
What was this room?
To her apartment.
This was my closet.
She has lived here 7 years.
That's my bedroom.
That's your bedroom?
Yeah.
Her husband grew up here.
It's horrible. Yeah, it's probably a total loss.
Run in the living room.
The living room is worse.
That's what got it worse. This is where the dog was.
There's no ceiling there.
No. The roof came off and the ceiling came down.
The kitchen littered with reminders of the freak storm.
On a typical summer's day, Big John is normally pretty active as he sits above Interstate 79 at his home on the Cole Country Miniature Golf Course.
If Big John's turning, we're open. If he's not turning, then that's our usual sign that we're closed.
But unfortunately for business, it was the latter on Monday morning in the aftermath of severe weather from over the weekend.
This is the aftermath of an EF0 tornado confirmed by the National Weather Service. Pamela Bazalian was inside the Calco Drive home when the tornado cut across her yard.
And I saw the patio table start to rise and the wind started picking up and it started spinning and it got really loud and you just knew something bad was coming.
When she looked outside, she saw the tree in her front yard had snapped, half of it crushing her camper. You can see the ceiling of the roof from inside bending under the weight. The tree also damaged the roof and siding of the home, tearing at power lines, making for dangerous moments following the storm.
In northeastern Tennessee, 10 homes were destroyed by an EF3 tornado with winds that reached 140 miles an hour. And in Southern California, it was lightning at the famed Venice Beach that sent 8 people to the hospital. A blogger just happened to record the thunderous sound.
It literally sounded like a bomb went off. I actually thought that the building next door blew up.
First lightning we knew of here at the beach was the one that unfortunately caused the injuries.
The Los Angeles County Fire Department says Sunday's freak storm caught everyone off guard. The deadly lightning bolt struck the water just feet from the beach, injuring 13 people and killing Nick Fagnano.
Bad things, I am so sorry about that.
In this footage, you can see lifeguards did everything possible to save him, including CPR. The 20-year-old swimmer later died at the hospital. A surfer remains in critical condition at UCLA Medical Center in Westwood.
Nick Fagnano was excited about the future. The 20-year-old Notre Dame high school graduate was looking forward to studying real estate and business at his dream school, USC. He took this picture in celebration of his acceptance as a junior transfer.
That picture was taken right after he opened the envelope.
Nick's uncle, Dennis Shanahan, says Nick was a loving son and nephew. He was voted friendliest student by his high school class.
There was not one person who encountered Nick that didn't come away touched or better in some way.
One thing is, if you look at a lot of the weather forecasts and you talk to some of the meteorologists, they will tell you that here in the continental United States, it's been colder than it usually is, which again leads more credence to the global warming debate. Please stay safe. Next hour here on MidPoint, not enough jobs in America already, so why not just open the doors to tens of thousands seeking work? That and the latest on what was supposed to be a ceasefire in the Middle East that was anything but when it was announced. It would seem as if most people's fears have been realized and government has no control over certain members of their society. It's all coming up right here on MidPoint.
Eligible for Medicare, that's a good thing, but it doesn't cover everything. Only about 80% of your Part B medical expenses. The rest is up to you. So consider an AARP Medicare Supplement Insurance Plan, insured by United Healthcare Insurance Company. Like all standardized Medicare supplement insurance plans, they pick up some of what Medicare doesn't pay and could save you in out-of-pocket medical costs. Call today to request a free decision guide to help you better understand what Medicare is all about and which AARP Medicare supplement plan works best for you. With these types of plans, you'll be able to visit any doctor or hospital that accepts Medicare patients. Plus, there are no networks and virtually no referrals needed. There's a range of plans to choose from too, and they all travel with you, anywhere in the country. Join the millions who have already enrolled in the only Medicare supplement insurance plans endorsed by AARP, an organization serving the needs of people 50 and over for generations, and provided by United Healthcare Insurance Company, which has over 30 years of experience behind it. Call today. Remember, Medicare supplement insurance helps cover some of what Medicare doesn't pay. Expenses that could really add up. These kinds of plans could save you in out-of-pocket medical costs. You'll be able to choose any doctor who accepts Medicare patients, and there are virtually no referrals needed. So don't wait. With all the good years ahead, look for the experience and commitment to go the distance with you. Call now to request your free decision guide. This easy-to-understand guide will answer some of your questions and help you find the AARP Medicare supplement plan that's right for you.
The Palestinian Authority seeks to keep their people from being blown to pieces, yet Hamas appears to have no issue with more blood on its hands. It is time for the world to get behind Israel and help root out and eradicate a suicidal band of terrorists. That's what many people already believe. There are not enough jobs in America at the moment, yet we have a president who seems content with opening the gates for more workers with no jobs to have a right to seek work here in America. What is it certain members of Congress and other groups cannot see wrong with this picture? And how close is America to being swept up in the current Ebola outbreak? These are just a few of the issues needing answers. Unlike the rest, we question everything for Tuesday, July 29th, 2014. The latest from our sister programs, the comments you may have missed, and the answers you won't get anywhere else. It's all on deck and much more after John Bachman deals another edition of Newsmax Now.
Thanks for that, Ed. Some members of Congress may be eyeing the exits just 3.5 days away from their month-long or 5-week-long recess coming up in August, and it still looks like there's no agreement over how to handle the crisis on the U.S.-Mexico border. In the meantime, some say President Obama may be getting ready to issue those executive orders, which could grant amnesty to millions of illegal immigrants. But will the Obama administration's obsession with executive orders cost his party Senate seats when the midterm elections come through in November? Earlier today, the chairman of the Republican National Committee, Reince Priebus, was on America's Forum, and he said the president definitely isn't helping things.
The reality is that the president's not popular. He's going to drag down the Democrats this year.
Well, Priebus went on to say that Americans are ready to set the course straight in these midterm elections, which leads one to question, if you were a Democrat, would you really want the president campaigning with you or for you? And according to this latest poll right here we have from Fox News, 57% of those polled said no, they would not want the president campaigning on their behalf if they were running for Senate. Only 41% said they would want the president to come by their state and campaign for them. Earlier today, House Speaker John Boehner spoke on Capitol Hill about the economy and a few other items as well. The Ohio congressman and Speaker and leader of the Republican Party says House Republicans are working to create jobs. Meantime, he slammed Democrats, especially Senator Harry Reid, for keeping some 40 jobs bills at bay. Reporters then asked about the possibility of Congress impeaching President Obama.
Listen, it's all a scam. This whole talk about impeachment is coming from the president's own staff and coming from Democrats on Capitol Hill.
Well, that's true. Boehner says this is an attempt to get Democratic voters to donate more money and show up during the elections this year. Important to note that both parties are using impeachment talk for fundraising purposes. The real question is, who did it first? Also happening in Washington today, Secretary of State John Kerry met with the Ukrainian foreign minister. Kerry says Russia's response to the violence in eastern Ukraine is not helping things, really making them worse. And there's, quote, no shred of evidence that Russia is willing to help end the violence and bloodshed in that part of the country. Kerry also says the U.S. will help support new European sanctions against Moscow, just announced today. An EU official said those new sanctions add 8 names to the list of people, or the 8 names to a list of people subject to EU-wide asset freezes and travel bans. That includes 4 people supposedly close to Russian President Vladimir Putin. More news ahead in 30 minutes. Now back to Ed in MidPoint.
The important thing to understand is that the reason we have civilians killed is not because Israel is targeting civilians, but because Hamas is using civilians as human shield.
But Prime Minister,
use missiles to protect our people. They use their people to protect their missiles.
The words ceasefire are bandied about far too easily in conflicts such as the one engaging world attention at the moment in the Middle East. For how does one have a cessation of hostilities when the government asking for it isn't really in charge, has little or no control over the terrorists in their midst, and seemingly can do or does not want to do much about it? All right, welcome into MidPoint, the director of jihadwatch.org and the author of several books, including The Truth About Muhammad and The Politically Incorrect Guide to Islam and the Crusaders. Robert Spencer joins us. Robert, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me on.
Robert, what is there to gain when you have the Palestinian Authority saying we want to shut down for 24 hours, yet you have Hamas connected with the Palestinian Authority basically saying, sorry, not going to happen. We will continue to fight. There is a complete lack of control.
Yes, of course. And Obama knows this, John Kerry knows this, and yet they still were pushing Israel to accept a ceasefire that would grant Hamas all its demands. Access to a seaport, the opening up of the border crossings, which would make it very easy for them to get weapons, the opening up of funding channels with Qatar, all these things in return for absolutely nothing on the Israeli side, not even the chance for Israel to continue to clear out the terror tunnels. And so Obama and Kerry seem to be absolutely 100% on the side of the Palestinian Authority, despite its inability and or unwillingness to rein in Hamas at the time of these so-called ceasefires.
Well, hold on a sec. That's a very tough charge that you're making right there, that perhaps the President and the Secretary of State are actually there on the side of terrorism before they are on the side of their ally?
Well, look, let's look at the whole picture. Just today it came to light that in a Wall Street Journal report that the IRS and the Obama State Department worked in 2009 to restrict 501c3 charitable status from pro-Israel groups. And they specifically targeted these groups because they were pro-Israel. Combine that with Obama's long record of rudeness to Benjamin Netanyahu, his long history of demanding that the Israelis make various concessions to the Palestinians while asking nothing of the Palestinians. One thing you got to say about Barack Obama, ever since he's been president, he's been consistent.
But what would they have to gain? And again, I'm going to follow up on this because it's a very serious charge to make. What would the president have to gain by, again, supporting terrorism and trying to hinder his ally?
Well, you could ask the same question about this president in aiding the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, in aiding the pro-jihad forces that toppled Gaddafi in Libya, in aiding the Islamic Jihad Sunni terrorists who want to topple Bashar Assad in Syria. Here again, he's consistent. This would not be the first time that he has supported terrorists. It seems as if Barack Obama thinks that if I think the most charitable explanation we can give for his behavior is that he thinks that if he deals with these people and shows goodwill to them, they will then in turn show goodwill to the United States and not launch terror attacks against us.
In the minds of those then in the Middle East, is that just a foolish individual making that sort of assertion?
No doubt about it. It's you're talking about people who see the world in terms of strength and weakness, and that's all they see the world in terms of. And so they see Barack Obama giving them what they want and reaching out to them in gestures of goodwill. They don't think, oh, we need to show goodwill to him instead. They think instead that he is weak and to be taken advantage of. And thus that explains their aggression and their hostility toward Obama, despite the fact that he's been so completely pliable and willing to grant their desires.
Why then does Israel not basically say either behind in back channels or in the open then. Mr. Secretary, thank you very much for coming over. You really wasted your trip. It's time for you to go home. We need to do this because I'm just following you. If they're following the terrorists, then it seems to me as if Israel needs to say, you're not getting the job done, let us deal with it by ourselves.
Well, they did say that. And they said to John Kerry, this is useless and you have no reason to be here, and so on. As a matter of fact, the Obama administration was very angry and publicly rebuked Israel for being rude to Kerry over the last few days. But I think the Israelis see the writing on the wall and that they're on their own in this conflict and that the United States has essentially switched sides.
If the United States then pulls out, how then do you get something done here other than, and let's of course remember that there are those who say Israel has every right to defend itself as a sovereign nation here, but where do you go? Because it seems that you have a world that is asking, there's got to be a way to stop this. There has to be an end point sooner or later.
Well, I think the end point is where Benjamin Netanyahu very rightly and wisely put it, and that is the end point is when Hamas no longer has the capacity to menace Israeli civilians with rocket attacks. And until they're at that end point, then Hamas has what's coming to it. You know, the world is against them. The Palestinians very skillfully manipulate the international media and world opinion. But the reality of the situation is, as it has been observed many times, that if the Israelis laid down their arms, there would be genocide of the Jews in Israel. But if the Palestinians laid down their arms, there would be peace. And so the Israelis just have to stand strong, and all free people should stand with them, as they're on the front lines of the same global jihad that threatens all free people.
I will agree, and certainly a number of people will agree, that the Palestinians seem to be currying favor in a number of places, certainly in the United Nations. All right, then, a very simple question. This is a terrorist group. It would seem as if everybody knows it. We're not talking about a secret here. So then why is a terrorist group able to mold the opinion of the United Nations, from Ban Ki-moon, the United Nations chief, for other nations as well, to bend to their will and feel sympathy for them?
Well, when you're talking about the United Nations, we have to remember that the largest voting bloc at the UN since the demise of the Soviet bloc is the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, 56 governments plus the Palestinian Authority. And the Organization of Islamic Cooperation is a clearly supremacist organization that has worked for years to restrict free speech and criminalize criticism of Islam in the West. And that's clearly sympathetic to Hamas and what it does. And of course, Hamas and the OIC play very skillfully upon the notions of racism and bigotry and victimhood that have so much political capital in the West among the left, and portray themselves as victims of racism and bigotry and so on, and are thereby able to manipulate opinion in ways that have no legitimacy, but nonetheless, this is the way that this is the currency that the left traffics in these days.
If I am following you, and again, please, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth here, but I'm just following the line of conversation here. When we talk about the United Nations, we talk about what is happening here. Are you then saying that what we are seeing here is a concerted anti-Semitic rank anti-Semitism, if you will, from the Islamic states and from those who simply would be willing to use whomever they can, however they can, whenever they can, in order to ensure the downfall of the Jewish state?
Yes, I say that without any hesitation. That's absolutely correct. At the UN, you look at their long record of numerous condemnations of Israel, and yet even if you take the body count, which is not a reliable indicator of how brutal someone is being, especially when Hamas is deliberately trying to provoke civilian casualties, but even if you take it and compare the body count to the body count of the Islamic State, the people that have been murdered by the new so-called caliphate in Iraq and Syria, where's the condemnation of that? Where is the international call to arms at the UN against the Islamic State? There's absolute silence. And so it's clear what their agenda is.
Even if the Islamic states are anti-Semitic, as you claim, why is this then still able to function? Why is it that there are so many people around the world who follow that lead and are then speaking out against the Israelis and seem to follow that, what you consider the anti-Semitic lead?
Well, I think that they very skillfully manipulated public opinion. I mean, if you look even at the fact that we're talking about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, there is no Palestinian nationality. Newt Gingrich was the only politician with the courage to enunciate this during the 2012 election, but he was absolutely correct. The whole Palestinian nationality was invented in the 1960s to take the rhetorical advantage away from the Israelis, the tiny Jewish state surrounded by 22 gigantic Arab states. Instead, you had this tiny Palestinian nationality surrounded by the giant Jewish state, and they've skillfully put that over on the world when the reality is there's no Palestinian nationality distinct from that of the Arabs in the surrounding areas. There was never an independent state of Palestine, never a king, never a president, never a culture, nothing that is Palestinian until it was invented as a stick to beat the Israelis with, and it's been remarkably effective.
Would you be willing to say then, and do you think there are others who would back you up by saying that when Mahmoud Abbas says he wants to have a ceasefire, and of course it doesn't happen because Hamas is involved, that again, not putting words in your mouth, but asking for an opinion here, that Abbas would be very quietly, if you asked him in a quiet moment, happy that this continues and pleased that this sort of terrorism continues, that he really does not want to stop it? Your opinion?
I say that without any doubt whatsoever, yes. Look, why would Mahmoud Abbas have Hamas in his government if he repudiated and rejected what Hamas stands for, which is openly the total destruction of Israel? Why would Mahmoud Abbas be associated with Fatah, which is the military wing of the Palestinian Authority under his direct control that has repeatedly called for genocide of the Jews in Israel, if he didn't approve of that sort of thing? Either he is the most ineffectual leader in the history of the world, or he is not how he is portrayed in the West.
30 seconds we have left then. Again, in your opinion and the opinion of those you speak to and those in the Israeli community, will this war continue until the last member of Hamas is dead?
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Look, Hamas has made its intentions clear in its charter, and that is in a statement by the Muslim Brotherhood founder Hassan al-Banna: Israel will arise and will remain until Islam obliterates it. And as long as there are Muslims who believe that, this war will continue.
And until the last member of Hamas is dead.
Indeed.
All right. Robert Spencer from Jihad Watch, very powerful words. We thank you so much for your time. We will speak again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Later on this hour, finally a reason behind the fist bump that makes sense. And after the break, no job openings and a lot more people seeking jobs here in America. That would seem to be what the Obama administration is considering. Is it going to work? We'll answer the questions right here on MidPoint.
Could you afford to have your wealth cut in half? Pat Boone here. It seems the news gets scarier and scarier, doesn't it? Now, respected economists and even billionaires warn we're on the eve of a massive wealth destruction. Stock charts show amazing similarities to the months before the 1929 crash. Could they be right? Could Americans face an economic crisis worse than 2008, closing banks and slicing portfolio values in half? Yes, they could. Now, how would you survive if your wealth crumbled overnight? Nobody knows when wealth destruction may hit, but one thing I do know for sure, it's wise to have a gold and silver foundation before a crisis. Some timeless wealth insurance. Why don't you call the folks at Swiss America for their timeless truth about money kit? Better to be a month early than 1 second late. Call now.
Hi, I'm Mike Reagan. If you think the worst of Obamacare is behind us, think again. Soon its new rules will affect every business, every insured person, and every Medicare recipient. That's why you need to protect yourself, your family, and your business with the Obamacare Survival Guide. It's easy to read, the fastest way for you to understand this law. The Obamacare Survival Guide gives you the tips, loopholes, and strategies you need to know. If you're insured on Medicare, a business, a medical professional, just about anyone, you need to get the Obamacare Survival Guide. It's a #1 New York Times bestseller, and already more than 500,000 Americans have gotten their copy. Newsmax says it's the best guide to the new law. The Obamacare Survival Guide is at bookstores everywhere, or get Newsmax's $4.95 special offer and save $15 off the cover price. Just go online now or call us today.
On Newsmax TV, Governor Rick Perry sends troops to the border to make it safe. But why is Obama so angry? Watch J.D. Hayworth today and get the real facts on America's Forum. Watch it on Newsmax TV.
On On the surface, it doesn't seem to make much in the way of sense. Not that anything coming out of the nation's capital these days ever does. An economy struggling to regain a certain level of employed, millions of people having simply walked away from the job scene because they have tired of looking and finding nothing. People being forced to take jobs below their station because there is simply nothing else. And then a president who appears to be threatening to allow more people into America who are seeking work. Yes, you may now be completely confused. Let's seek to make this all work here. Welcome back to MidPoint. Former ministerial advisor and senior consultant at Europe Economics, financial guru Jonathan Todd joins us. John, thanks so much for being here.
Hey, Ed, thank you.
John, let's get right to the meat of this whole issue here. We have potentially a president who is willing to use his pen, as he has said he will many times, and he will basically bring in more immigrants to the United States, more people seeking work, more people with work permits. Now, again, please correct me if I'm wrong. We have a lot of unemployed in this country right now. We are looking for jobs. People say there are not enough good jobs here, or any jobs for that matter, in certain areas of the country. How do you then in any way, shape, or form justify bringing more workers into a place where there aren't enough jobs right now?
Well, you're absolutely right, Ed. The labor market is in certainly a challenging situation right now. By all measures, unemployment is still too high, and the long-term unemployed has actually come down the past few months, which is a good sign. But again, the total unemployment rate still a little bit too high. It's actually been especially hard on lower-skilled American workers too. The less education you have, below high school, of course, the higher unemployment rate you have. And so you're right. It would seem to be a bit of a confusing situation to bring in other similar skilled people into an already broad pool of people who are underemployed.
If we're talking about 5 million more people, and again, we're talking millions of illegal immigrants, work permits, save them from deportation, that is from the Mail Online, a number of different outlets that look at it this way. We're looking at 5 million or so here. Jonathan, where do they go? I mean, seriously, and I'm not going to take a side here either way on whether they should or they shouldn't be here, but where do they go for work?
Where do they go for work? Well, it's actually interesting. So the domestic-born workers and foreign-born workers actually operate in two pretty separate labor pools. Foreign workers tend to cluster towards industries like gardening and landscape, agriculture, for example, elderly and childcare, as opposed to lower-skilled American domestic-born workers. They tend to cluster towards other industries like trucking, like lower-level administrative jobs, where communication might actually be a little more important rather than the physical component of labor. So over time, we've actually seen the two different labor pools have actually operated almost completely distinctively from each other.
Is there, again, and this comes back to an old argument that we've heard many people talk about when it comes down to immigration. I even heard my grandfather say it 7 million years ago. He would say that foreign workers are merely taking the jobs that Americans are too proud to take. Is it as simple as saying that? Because that really does seem overly simplistic.
You're right, it does. Actually, studies have proven over time, especially from labor economists who focus on agriculture, that Americans have left the farm completely, and they just won't take the job, even if wages were to rise substantially. So what actually has happened is that the lower wage workers, since about the 1950s, have come in and filled those jobs. We're speaking about agriculture specifically right now, leaving Americans to take other sorts of less laborious, low-wage jobs. So actually what's happening now is, especially as Mexico's economy is getting richer and the flow of migrants, seasonal migrants, has actually slowed over recent years, there's not actually a replacement one-of-one for foreign-born, low-wage workers like that being replaced by American workers. Instead, they're being replaced by technology, for example. It's kind of like many other wage workers who are being replaced by technology. Same story. Instead of low-wage immigrants picking, sorting nuts or picking vegetables, and I don't want to make a generalization, but these are the seasonal migrant workers. There's actually new machines that are actually doing the same thing. So the one-for-one trade-off is kind of a false argument to make. It's not actually going to be an American worker replacing these foreign workers.
All right, I'm going to work from the other way around here now, play devil's advocate. Could a temporary amnesty actually boost the economy by putting more people to work, making business owners see that there's more to do, creating more product, creating more money, creating more possible income here? Give me an idea of how far off or how right on this thinking is.
I don't think you're too far off, Ed. There have been studies shown by, again, labor economists like Giovanni Perry over at UC Davis that immigrant workers actually do boost the employment prospects across the economy. So just because you bring in low-wage workers from abroad, that doesn't mean that you're necessarily taking, again, jobs away from domestic native-born workers. Again, studies have shown that it has shown to improve the number of jobs available to low-wage workers. It has shown to improve wages among workers. It sounds counterintuitive, but it's actually worked out that way. To have that labor pool available has actually opened up more capital towards bringing native domestic workers into the workforce.
What about those who say, and here comes another one of those arguments, they will say that, and again, one side, regardless of the fact that they are actually here illegally, that they're working here illegally, they are still paying taxes, and that there are still municipalities, there's federal government, there's places that are still making money from what they're doing. So is that really a solid argument to be made? Are there big enough numbers there that point out to the fact that, yes, even though they're illegal, in essence, according to what some would say, it helps a lot of people down the line?
There are actually. There was a 2006 study by the state of Texas, and they found that undocumented workers actually cost the state of Texas about $500 million or so in terms of services provided, hospitals, school, extra police needed, that kind of thing. But actually, the same study noted that the same migrant workers increased the GDP of the state by about $18 billion. So that's a pretty good return on assets, if you will. So there are second-order effects by having these people in the economy. They increase demand for housing, especially in lower wage, more impoverished rural areas. They have the effect of reducing costs of food or childcare, that kind of service. And, again, all the second-order effects that filter through the economy by having that many more people who are wage earners, who are going to be consumers in that local area, in that state.
Here's another side of things, though, another part of this argument here, because you talked about homes. Let's go to something else, and this comes down to another economic discussion here. If we have a lot of these young immigrants that are coming into the country, whether they're illegal, whatever, most of them are young. We're talking about women, children. We're also talking about teenagers. We have to put them to school. They can't just sit out there, and they're not just going to sit in a holding facility for any length of time. Most of them do not speak English. We're talking about schools in many parts of the country that are overflowing at this point, that have too many portable units as well. They don't have permanent facilities. They don't have enough books. They don't have enough teachers because there's not enough money to feed all this. And I mean feed into this educational system here itself. Aren't we looking at a breaking point here on the educational system when it comes down to money?
Sure, it's absolutely a strain. We've seen that in a lot of states like Georgia, Alabama, Texas, California, where you do have to educate these kids that come into the state. And of course, there's a financial cost to that. Somebody's going to have to pay the bill for that. But again, that's only one half of the equation there. There's the fiscal cost, but then again, there's the economic benefit of having those workers across the entire economy. So those people might not necessarily be the wage earners, but their families are. Somebody is actually contributing to the economy. And that's offsetting, or in some cases, as studies have shown, more than offsetting the cost of educating those children or treating them in hospitals, that kind of thing.
Isn't it also something that they need to be concerned about, that many of the jobs that would be taken here would be, as you mentioned much earlier, low-skilled jobs? There's only so many of those to begin with. I mean, we are talking about people who, if they're going to become members of society and going to create more taxes, if they're going to buy houses and buy goods, they're going to have to make a little bit more than just $1.95 an hour.
Oh, that's fair. That's absolutely a fair point. They are low-wage workers, but again, their effects on the economy have shown to be positive, and it's again counterintuitive, but these low-wage earners have boosted the economy not only for themselves and their families, but for the people around them in the states and cities they live in.
You think the guest worker program could be a long-term solution where perhaps immigrants come in, work in the country on a provisional basis? Would that make economic sense?
It might. Of course, there's huge issues that have to do with immigration policy that have to be sorted out in Washington, and it seems like we're a long ways off from getting anything resolved there. So I think there is a solution there that can suit everyone's needs. I think the economy needs these workers. I think they do benefit the economy. I think they do need to be responsible, and they do need to be tracked, make sure we don't have criminals or anybody like that is going to come into our society and actually place more of a burden than these workers should. So I think there is a solution there. If we can, maybe keep track of these workers better, have a better system for maintaining knowledge of these workers and ensuring they are contributing to the economy. I think there is like a bipartisan solution there that can be solved.
So many facets of this conversation and so much more to learn. Jonathan, thank you so much. By the way, having lived and worked in Brookline, Massachusetts for a while, please tell them that they no longer have to worry about any sort of police action while we're on the air. I know ComAv must be busy, but they got to keep it a little bit down here during certain times you're doing an interview.
Absolutely.
Let them know. I'm sure they'll want to hear from me and you as well. Jonathan, thank you so much for your time. We'll do it again.
Thank you, Ed.
All right, take care. Later on this hour, how worried should America be about the current outbreak of Ebola? And right after the break, you might have missed it, we're going to correct that situation from our sister shows right here on the Newsmax TV network. And we continue on MidPoint, where we question everything.
This will hit Americans harder than anything since the Great Depression. Over the past 26 years, our research firm has guided over 1 million investors. We predicted 5 major events over the past decade. In 2002, we advised our clients to buy gold-related investments when gold traded under $300 an ounce. In 2006, we begged investors to get out of the housing market before it plunged. We were among the first to predict the recession of '07. We predicted the stock market crash of '08. Finally, we turned bullish on stocks in 2009 and drove the Dow from 6,440 to over 16,000, a gain of over 10,000 points. Our first 5 predictions have come true. Now we're issuing critical warning number 6. Most people won't like what we have to say. They'll find it hard to believe until they see all the facts we present them online at criticalwarning6.com. Go to criticalwarning6.com now. criticalwarning6.com.
Are you ready to take it all off this summer? I took it all off, and I'm glad I did. 35 pounds gone. If you said that I could get in a bathing suit again, I'd say you're crazy. But I did it.
There's still time to look hot and feel great this summer. And now, lose your first 5 pounds fast with a Fast 5 from Nutrisystem.
I've lost 40.5 pounds on Nutrisystem, and I feel fabulous.
You'll lose 5 pounds your first week or your money back, guaranteed.
I'm Erin, and I lost 30 pounds.
Order your 28-day My Way plan right now, and we'll rush you the Fast 5 free. You'll get 1 week of fantastic energizing shakes, 1 week of amazing craving crusher shakes, 1 week of delicious meals, all free. And the best news, call in the next 4 minutes and you'll also get the all-new smoothies, absolutely free. Millions of people have lost weight with Nutrisystem, and now you can too. Time is running out. Call now and get all this, plus 1 week of smoothies free. Don't wait.
Call 877-295-SIZE and lose your first 5 pounds free.
Furniture polishes are a nasty, greasy mess. Introducing Amish Secret, handmade right here in the USA to help bring wood back to life. Amish Secret cleans layers of built-up wax, revealing a fresh, lasting shine without leaving a sticky, oily residue. It cleans and protects in one easy step. We polished this entire tabletop with the leading brand and applied Amish Secret to the middle. Even after dumping dirt and grime all over it, nothing sticks to Amish Secret.
You're not going to have to dust anymore.
I'm getting this. Clean, polish, and restore with Amish Secret for just $10.
We guarantee our handmade formula will nourish your wood and restore that fresh, clean shine, or you get your money back.
Call now and you can double the order. Get a second bottle with our Easy Flow spout. It's perfect for larger areas, but there's more. You can also get a set of our Amish Secret furniture repair markers. Instantly restore color to any scratched wood surface. You can get it all. Call now.
To order, call 1-800-598-9205. But hurry, call now and get the old Amish special offer with all of today's orders. So call 1-800-598-9205.
Welcome back. I'm Francesca Page, and here's your Newsmax Now update. Ebola continues to claim more victims over in Africa. Multiple sources are now reporting that another doctor, this one from Sierra Leone, has died after contracting the deadly virus. Now over to Washington. House Republicans have agreed to vote on a slimmed-down bill to combat the crisis at the U.S.-Mexican border. The $659 million bill will allow for quicker deportation of illegals and is just a fraction of Obama's proposed $3.7 billion plan.
We expect on Thursday to attempt to move this bill, about $659 million, which covers the expenses we believe that are necessary between now and the end of September.
The cuts in this new bill were made in an attempt to win over skeptical conservatives. Lawmakers are hoping to resolve the situation before leaving for their annual August recess on Friday. And a 9-year-old girl who was struck by a small airplane making an emergency landing on a Florida beach has died. The accident happened over the weekend, and her father died at the scene of the accident. The pilot was not harmed. And the National Transportation and Safety Board is still investigating the crash. That's your Newsmax Now update. Now back to MidPoint.
All right, Francesca, thank you very much. Let us once again remind you of the flashback segment of our show. That's where we take you back in time, if you will. I know, of course, it's not a Back to the Future sort of thing here, but we let you know what you might have missed on our two sister shows. Remind you that it's, first of all, America's Forum at 9 o'clock Eastern Time every day, Monday through Friday, right here on the Newsmax TV network. And then the Steve Malzberg Show follows us on MidPoint. That is at 3 o'clock Eastern Time. We'll show you those times again, but here, let's go ahead and get to some of the meat of the story here. First of all, on America's Forum this morning, Chairman of the Republican National Committee, Reince Priebus, was on today. He talked about Republican control of the Senate and noting that it is absolutely crucial to get bills to the White House, mostly because Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid is the guy who, in his opinion, has been always standing in the way.
I think that we've got to get a Republican Senate. Obviously, then I think we can start boxing the president in on some of these bills. And then, obviously, if he doesn't want to at least do some things that are reasonable next year, then obviously we have to win the White House. So Harry Reid stands in the way, Congressman, and no person knows more about all of that than you do, but seriously, I think we need to make it a part of the campaign here for the fall and illustrate to the American people that who controls the Senate is important to what actually happens here in Washington, D.C.
All right, let's go ahead and turn to the Steve Malzberg Show. President of the Catholic League and Newsmax contributor Bill Donahue was on the Malzberg Show yesterday. Talked about the relative silence, and this is very true too, from the world community and also the United States government about the purging of Iraqi Catholics by the group ISIS.
It's absolutely amazing what has happened. Pew Research, and they're pretty good, they're pretty neutral, they don't really tilt left or right. They came out here recently and said that Christians are being persecuted more than any religious group in the world in 151 nations. That's 3/4 of the world's population. You know, we got a new N-word now, which nobody wants to talk about. It's called Nazarene. And that's what they're doing in Iraq. They are branding the big N on the homes of Iraqi Christians so that they know which ones to destroy. And where is our president on this issue? I can't find him.
I want to remind you once again of the dates, the times, everything that you happen to see right here on the Newsmax TV network. Don't forget, beginning on the mornings, 9 o'clock, Monday through Friday, America's Forum. J.D. Hayworth is there. We follow up at noon Eastern Time with MidPoint, and then again the Steve Malzberg Show comes up at 3 o'clock, and it is only right here on the Newsmax TV network. Something else that has happened today, too, that is a very interesting story, and we have talked about it just a little bit, but it certainly bears some more looking into it, some of the quotes that have come out. John Boehner, the Speaker of the House, has basically said he is flat out saying absolutely not. There is no impeachment. It is not going to happen. It is, of course, some of the things that he is saying about it that have a lot of people talking in Washington right now. And again, I'm going to quote from John Boehner. We have no plans to impeach the president. We have no future plans. Listen, it's all a scam started by Democrats at the White House. Of course, Democrats have fired back almost immediately, saying it is absolutely something that the Republicans have brought into the mix. The Republicans are firing back, saying it's the Democrats here. Democrats have been talking for a long time, and this is something else that is always discussed with all this, is that it is really good for their fundraising efforts. So certainly, while it may or may not have started with the Democrats, it certainly is something that they always would like to talk about because, quite frankly, it helps them raise money. At the end of the day, it is all about raising money. All right, we're going to go ahead and take a break here in a moment, but before we do, just a quick reminder, coming up not too far in the distant future, there is a tremendous amount of discussion about the current Ebola outbreak overseas. There are people wondering what can happen. Can it reach the American shores? How could it reach here? And again, it is certainly a time that we talk about where, thanks to air travel and so many other things, diseases happen to spread almost rapidly fast, much more than they ever did before. So we will talk about that. Also, there's something else I think that is going to be very key, and that is going to be the fist bump. No more shaking hands, all right? Trust me. It's good for your health. Now, now let's go ahead and see another American moment.
In the early morning hours of May 2nd, 2011, the Central Intelligence Agency launched Operation Neptune Spear and set into motion a mission to bring one of the world's most notorious terrorists to justice. All indications were that Osama bin Laden was asleep as the U.S. Naval Special Warfare Development Group, known as SEAL Team 6, approached his highly secured three-story Pakistani-based compound. From entry to exit took approximately 45 minutes, with the bulk of time being used to gather up a plethora of al-Qaeda intelligence materials. When located in his living quarters on the third floor of his compound, the head of the Islamist group al-Qaeda was found using his young wife as a shield. The Obama administration reported the 54-year-old terrorist was given a traditional Islamic burial at sea. 9 years, 7 months, and 21 days following his infamous attack on New York's Twin Towers, killing thousands of innocent civilians, its mastermind, Osama bin Laden, was dead. You're watching An American Moment on Newsmax TV.
When demand is high, so is opportunity. There is only so much silver in the world, and over half of all silver produced each year is used in industries that make products like cell phones, cars, and computers. This industrial demand is one reason silver has performed so well, and why some analysts are predicting a future surge in silver demand. Since silver is the lowest priced precious metal, shouldn't you see how silver can help diversify your portfolio? Goldline has been helping people acquire precious metals like gold and silver for over 50 years. Getting started is easy. Just call the number on your screen to receive our free investor kit. Shipping is free. You pay the same price using cash or credit card. And qualifying orders are eligible for Goldline's Price Guarantee Program. Call now to get started, because greater silver demand creates greater opportunities.
For home decor and inspiration, I go to visitjoss.com. Every day they showcase new design events with furniture and decor that I love. It's simple and free to sign up with just an email address, and then I have access to beautifully curated collections. At visitjoss.com, all of the items are hand-picked, and they're up to 70% off. When you sign up now, you'll discover inspiration and enjoy free returns. Go to visitjoss.com today.
Wayfair, you got just what I need. Everything for my home, you got it for me.
I've never seen selection quite like this. Every color and size in my mind. They have every single thing on my list, and with 70% off, who knows what I'll find.
Wayfair, you got just what I need. Everything for my home, you got it for me.
Wayfair, and the shipping was free. Now my home's the home I wanted to
Find everything for your home at shopwayfair.com.
Why 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? We choose to go to the moon.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Kent Brantley knew the danger, but when an Ebola outbreak hit Liberia earlier this year, the 33-year-old doctor from Indianapolis stayed to fight it, as did Nancy Reipel, a hygienist from Charlotte. The Ebola virus is highly contagious with close contact and is fatal in up to 90% of cases. There is no known cure. Doctors treating Ebola patients wear full protective gear, such as these synthetic suits and goggles. But Brantley still got infected, as did Reipel.
From the serious to the sublime. First of all, Ebola, whether or not it can make it here to the United States, how dangerous it could be, how scared some people are that this indeed could be one of those global pandemics. And now to the second part of our conversation, where you can now admit it. The first time somebody approached you, gave you a fist bump, you were confused, taken aback by what seemed to be yet another attempt at being cool in the greeting process. Yet now it's become a regular part of the male introduction scene and hygiene. All this and more as we fist bump Newsmax Deputy Health Editor Nick Tate, whom we may actually fist bump afterwards because you don't do it when you say hi. Do you? I'm not sure.
You know, I think it's still being worked out, you know, the protocol.
We have to work, we're going to be working out fist bump etiquette here, the way it sounds. Let's start with the serious stuff right now. The Ebola outbreak has now 2 Americans that are afflicted with this disease now. And immediately this catches people's attention because the top question is, how scared should we be here in America that it will show up here?
Well, CDC officials in the World Health Organization are saying that, in fact, it would be very difficult for Ebola to make its way to the U.S. The reason is, in West Africa, where we've seen all these cases, about 1,200, there aren't many direct flights to the U.S. You have to kind of stop some other place, and there are checks along the way, so people who have symptoms might be picked up and quarantined or taken off. But, as we saw from the 2 American cases, it is possible. An infection like Ebola is an opportunistic infection. It is a world traveler, and these cases can spread beyond Africa, and that's the big concern. There's about a 21-day incubation period from infection to actually showing symptoms, and when you have symptoms, that's when you become infectious. The good news about it is that it's not very easily spread. You can't catch it through respiratory, people sneezing or coughing. There has to be fairly close contact. The bad news is it's about 90% fatal in the people who are infected. So if you get it, it's pretty bad.
How close are they to finding a cure?
You know, we've been writing about Ebola for decades, and there really do not seem to be a step closer. There is a little piece of information in the latest story that suggests that the treatments that don't cure it, but they deal with the symptoms, which include gastrointestinal distress, vomiting, diarrhea, etc., bleeding, internal, external bleeding. They have found that the drug treatments for the people who've had it in this particular outbreak seem to be more effective than in the past, but nobody's really talking about a cure.
Is it not fair to say, though, that when it comes to diseases, we always hear about the global pandemic, and we hear about things that can spread because of airlines, that there is still the possibility, number one. Number two, the symptoms from Ebola are a lot like a lot of other different diseases here. So
they are.
Because you have them, don't just think you have Ebola. A lot of people are going to be walking into the doctor's office saying they think they have it now.
Well, that's the good and the bad news. The bad news is that it may present like malaria. It may present like other conditions that you would have, and so it might not be recognized right away. But the good news is if you have a stomach ache, if you have gastrointestinal distress, if you're vomiting, if you have diarrhea, probably Ebola is not the first thing that you should think of if you're living in this country. But, you know, I don't want to minimize the concerns. And as you say, we live in a global society, and we are just one international flight away from a potential disaster. If there was a patient who went from Nigeria to Liberia, had he landed in New York, had he landed in Washington, had he gone to Disney World, landed in Miami or LA or Chicago, we'd be looking at a very different picture today.
All right, let's talk about Obamacare here. This is an interesting story. Adam O'Neill is the mayor of Belhaven, North Carolina. He walked 273 miles to Washington, draw attention to the closing of the local hospital in his small town, and also talking about other rural facilities here. They're caught in a monster bind by Obamacare right now.
That's exactly right. There's about a dozen or more rural small hospitals that have closed since the passage of this law. What's happening is that the federal funding that has kept these places afloat is drying up. It's shrinking because the law presumes that more people who get insurance as required under the law will no longer go to the ER, will no longer go to the hospital, they'll see a doctor. But in fact, those patients are still showing up, and the money to care for them and pay for them is not there. So the mayor is really trying to highlight that there are other issues as well. I mean, there's been funding cuts. The Mandatory Budget Act cut about $4.5 billion from American hospitals beginning last year. It's about $1.3 million per hospital, about 25 nursing positions, and so those hospitals are already struggling to kind of make ends meet, and this is just making it more difficult for them.
MIT economist Jonathan Gruber is somebody that everybody in Obamacare knows very well. He's made a statement recently that has gotten a little bit of a tremor.
Well, he was one of the early advocates and defenders of Obamacare and informed some of what was written. There's a video that's emerged that has him talking in 2012 where he says that the reason the subsidies were created only for those states that create their own exchanges was to provide an incentive for states to create their exchanges. Now, as we know, 36 states have said we're not going to do that, we're going to go with a federal program, and now there are lawsuits pending that argue that the language of the law makes those subsidies in those 36 states illegal. The White House has argued, well, that's an oversight. It was a drafting error. Of course we meant everybody to get subsidies, but what Gruber's video suggests, it may be a smoking gun, that in fact there was thinking that informed the writing of the law to in fact create these exchange subsidies only for those states that created them. And you know, the bigger picture for consumers beyond the politics and the debate is the residents of 36 states could lose billions of dollars and see their health premiums go up by as much as 75%, which is huge.
All right, less than a minute left here. We're now finding out that the fist bump is more hygienic than a handshake. But I mean, let's face it, it is less human contact.
It is, you know,
How's that?
And in these times of, you know, opportunistic infections that are spread very easily, I think the fist bump is growing in popularity, particularly in hospital and healthcare settings. There's a new study out, and what the researchers did boldly, some of them dipped their hands into kind of a broth of E. coli, and then they fist bumped, they high-fived, and they shook hands with their colleagues, and then they measured how much transfer of bacteria. 20 times as much bacteria was transmitted by a handshake as a fist bump. So I think we might see the popularity of the fist bump grow.
I don't know. I can't see Donald Trump and certain others and saying hi to the president by going, Mr. President,
That's
how
right.
are you?
Pressing the flesh is going to take on a whole new meaning from political circles.
Reminder, go to healthradarnow.com. Get your special offer on the Obamacare Survival Book, of course. Nick Tate, our deputy health editor, involved in Obamacare, the book itself, and the writer. And by the way, let's go ahead and... Okay, let's, as long as we do... See, now let's do this, because... I'm not one who goes with that. Thank God I didn't do that, man. Very good. Off to New York City next, right here on the Newsmax TV network.
Can you really lose weight without changing your lifestyle? LaToya Q did. In fact, in just 5 months, she lost nearly 2 pounds a week without changing the way she dieted or exercised.
I lost 36 pounds and I went down 4 dress sizes.
Like so many people, LaToya didn't want to change her lifestyle to lose weight. Instead, she decided to take America's #1 selling diet pill, Lipozene.
People kept asking me, "Are you you have to be exercising? You're really you just don't want to tell us what you're doing." I was like, "No, I don't have time to go to a gym. I just took Lipozene and I started seeing results immediately."
Lipozene has now sold over 20 million bottles. That's because Lipozene really works. And to prove it, we conducted our very own double-blind clinical study where all we asked people to do was take Lipozene. And by just taking Lipozene, they lost weight. But here's where it gets really exciting. These people were not asked to change their diet or exercise. And 78% of the weight they lost was pure body fat. Not water, fat.
I'm almost back down to my high school weight, so I'm really loving that.
And for even faster results, you can try Lipozene with moderate diet and exercise.
Feels great to have a six-pack. I didn't think I would have it at my age.
I lost 7 inches off of my waist and I lost 2 dress sizes and I feel amazing.
Now you can join the millions of people who have lost weight with Lipozene by trying it risk-free for only $29.95. Lipozene is guaranteed to help you lose weight or your money back.
Lipozene, it works.
But wait. Call in the next 10 minutes and we'll double your order absolutely free. Plus, we'll even pay for your shipping. But that's still not all. To celebrate selling over 20 million bottles of Lipozene, the company will give you a free bottle of Metabo Up with your order. That's a $20 value free. But you must call right now because this exclusive free offer is not available in stores.
Call 1-800-509-9436. That's 1-800-509-9436.
When you've got a serious leak, it's time to call for help. It's time for Leak Ender 2000. It fixes any leak and fixes it fast. No matter what kind of leak you have, just spray it with Leak Ender 2000. And in minutes, the leak is sealed. Look, we'll take this garden hose and cut it with a knife. Now we'll shut off the water, spray on Leak Ender 2000, and minutes later the hose is as good as new. The cut is sealed completely. Here's the secret. Leak Ender 2000 is a specially formulated liquid rubber compound that completely fills any crack or separation as it hardens, sealing it tight. Why put up with gushing gutters, dripping drains, wet windowsills, and rain-soaked RVs? Leak Ender 2000 stops all those leaks with just a simple spray.
Leak Ender 2000 is great. I just spray it on and no more leak.
I don't know what I would do without it.
Leaky appliances can drive you crazy, but just spray on Leak Ender 2000 and they're as good as new. And what about those foundation cracks? They let water in, even bugs. But Leak Ender 2000 can seal it up in no time. It can even fix air leaks. Just a quick spray and it's sealed up tight. Leak Ender 2000 stops leaks in metal, wood, cement, brick, baked enamel, just about anything. Why spend a fortune on costly repairs and replacements? Just spray those leaks away with Leak Ender 2000. It's yours for only $14.95, and it's guaranteed to work or your money back. But wait, order now and we'll double your order at no extra charge. You'll get this huge giant-size can, good for hundreds of jobs, for only $14.95. So have your credit card ready and call now.
To order Leak Ender 2000, have your credit card ready and call toll-free. 1-800-873-2700 or send check or money order for $14.95 plus $5.95 shipping to Leak Ender 2000, P.O. Box 1183, Cathedral City, California. Call 1-800-873-2700.
Just before we get out of here on MidPoint, let's go ahead and head to New York right now. Talk to my buddy Steve Malzberg. Gets ready for the Steve Malzberg Show, 3 o'clock Eastern Time, right here, Monday through Friday on the Newsmax TV network. I needed to ask you a couple of things about some things we talked about here today, because I know that we cross over a lot on certain things. This whole poll that has Mitt Romney defeating Barack Obama if you were to hold the 2012 elections over again. I did a commentary earlier today where I said, really, come on, let's just stop. It's nice, it's a wonderful filler, but if the Republican Party is going to move ahead, don't they have to just move past all of these what-ifs and let's just stop dealing with fantasy? Just deal with some reality.
Yeah, but it wasn't the Republican Party, it was CNN. And I'm sure CNN was hoping to get different results. In fact, they didn't announce those results on their broadcast until yesterday, I believe, when it was done over the weekend, and they announced other things from that poll over the weekend. So the Republican Party didn't commission the poll.
Well, no, the Republican Party didn't commission the poll, but there are those who already are. Certainly some Republicans who say, gee, what a great idea to have Mitt Romney possibly come back for 2016. It's not going to happen.
Oh,
Stop.
well, you know,
that's the point.
Well,
Stop.
Yeah,
right?
Well, I mean, if Mitt Romney wants to run again, let him run again. I don't think he's going to do it. I think he's been through it a couple of times, and especially the bitter disappointment and the cost to family and you know, self is too much. But yeah, no, I mean, we will move on, as the Republicans will move on, and you know, but there's nothing wrong with seeing the buyer's remorse. I'm shocked it's only 9 points.
What about Rand Paul, who said that the GOP must evolve and adapt? What do you think?
He's a libertarian, and you know, he in a general election would have a lot of appeal, as he does in the primaries. But he does run the risk, if he goes too far libertarian, of alienating a lot of the conservative base and you know, the evangelical base and people who are strong on defense. I think defense is going to be a big issue in this election, primary and general in 2016, which it usually is not as much. And if he's like, you know, becomes a big isolationist and preaches isolationism, I think he's going to turn a lot of people off.
What about the whole idea of conservatarianism? You fall for that? Or conservative? What are they calling it? Conservatarianism? Yeah, libertarianism? Yeah, conservatarianism. I had to get the words right. Yeah.
You could do a little bit of that, but you know, he's going to have to differentiate himself from his father, certainly on foreign policy, as one. I know he's a strong supporter of Israel, but you know, he can't say like his father says, who cares if Iran has a bomb? We have a bomb. I don't think that's going to fly anymore. By the way, you know, Steve Stockman is going to join us right off the top, and he has said that the president wants to be impeached. The president and the Democrats are making millions of bucks, reportedly, in fundraising off of, hey, they're going to impeach me. John Boehner today said there'll be no impeachment. And yesterday, Steve King said on this show, made some news that the president has a Messiah complex. He wants to be crucified in the House and then given eternal life in the Senate. So it's getting pretty interesting.
No, it's all about marketing. It's all about getting the message in there. But come on, I mean, I don't think there's anybody who really ever thought that impeachment was going to happen. I mean, really.
Well, I mean, not now, but, you know, I think more people will be on board if he signs an executive order giving amnesty to 5 or 6 million illegals. Don't forget, he'll have 2 years left, and if he sees, like, you know, if he sees he's not going to be stopped or checked, who knows how far he'll try to go.
What's your guess? Do you think that the president will wait until everybody departs Washington, D.C. and then bring out his poisoned pen?
Oh yeah, he'll do it. I think the prediction from, was it King yesterday, who said it'll probably be the third week of August. I think so too. He'll do it. I don't know how he thinks it's going to help him. By the way, also Danny Danon, the Likud party member who was the deputy minister of defense, he got fired by Netanyahu. He was going to talk about Kerry, who is, you know, you really wonder what world Kerry's living in. But the truth is, he's living in Obama's world, working in Obama's cabinet. So it's the world according to Obama through Kerry.
It is indeed. That is the Steve Molesberg Show, following us in mere seconds, if you will, from New York. Steve, have a great show, my friend. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Thanks, Ed.
All right, don't forget the Steve Molesberg Show, 3 o'clock, America's Forum. Begins at 9 o'clock Eastern Time, right here on the Newsmax TV network. Rock on, true believers. We thank you so much for joining us. Tuesday is all done. We're back again tomorrow. On Wednesday, middle of the week, and a whole lot more to talk about. Because here on MidPoint, every day, we question everything. Thank you.